There's no 100% security anywhere in the world. The more the ease of life, the more the security in it. One of the beauty about cybersecurity is also job security.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's another day. So, happy Sunday. I don't think I want to miss saying that. Well, and I'm going to try to talk as slow as possible so that we do not have to go through what we went through yesterday. So, my apologies on yesterday. We're going to do better today. Okay.
Something, I think your audio is a bit low. I
Okay.
don't know
So,
whether it's from my hand, but can we hear clearly, please?
We can't hear him clearly.
all right, that's fine. Is it better now?
Your audio is low. Yeah.
Is it better now?
You might need to get a bit closer to your mic.
Okay, hold on. Please give me a few. I'll fix that right away.
I can hear him clearly. Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay. You should be able to hear me now.
Okay, it's better now.
Okay. Anyways, my apologies for that. So we are going to be going, and like we did yesterday, one thing we started with was to explain some few key terms or keywords we are going to be encountering, and I think I'm going to be doing the same again. And the reason I'll be doing that is so that when I begin to say some things, it is easy for you to, understand, as I don't want us to be going back and forth. And the key reason for doing that is because we are going to be, having some practicals today, and we I want to ensure that we do what we have to to do and not just going back and forth. Okay, so yesterday we stopped at social engineering, and today we are going to be going to the next module, which talks about network level attack and countermeasures. So we're going to be starting with sniffing. But yes, like I said, I was going to explain some words. One of the keywords I'm going to be explaining, which I want you to jot down if possible, is the word packet. Okay, packet. Now, what is a packet? A packet is like a small envelope that carries, your data across the network. It means that when you are sending message from a computer to the network or from a computer to another computer, it is your message is sending in a form of a packet. If you are sending I from your computer and it gets to computer B, it is sent to computer B in form of a packet. So the next one I'm going to be talking about is an IP address, which I said already. Right, an IP address like a phone number that identifies a device on the network. You're connecting to a network, you get an IP address that is identified or that is particular or peculiar to your device. And the next one is MAC address. I think I said that yesterday. MAC address is a physical hardware device of a network. Your computer also has a MAC address, so it's very important you know this thing so that when we continue the class and you hear me mentioning MAC address, IP addresses, you are able to understand all these things. And the next one I'm going to explain is a switch. Is a switch. Okay, now what is a switch? A switch is a network device that connects multiple devices, in a LAN or in a router, and sends it only to the intended device. And now what that means is on your network, so well that you have your IP address and you have your MAC address on your computer, right? So what a switch is going to be doing, right? A switch, is the device, that understands that yes, this particular IP address is assigned to this MAC address, so that if there's going to be any packet coming in from anybody, it knows the particular MAC address to forward it to. Since your IP address is only on the network, your MAC address is on your computer. One way or the other, they have to be able to, identify each other. The IP address has to be able to, identify the MAC address. So the system put in place for that, like a switch. So what a switch is going to do is able to, connect the IP address also to the MAC address and is able to identify, yes, this particular IP address belongs to this MAC address, so that when messages are coming, it gets to the intended person. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is an hub, hub. Now, a hub is also like a switch, right? But hub is considered unintelligent, and this is the reason. We spoke about a switch, that the way a switch works, a switch identifies the IP address, it identifies the MAC address. It means that it's able to know who a particular IP address belongs to and know where a particular MAC address belongs to. But for a hub is unable to identify who the MAC address belongs to. So when the message comes to the hub will now send out a broadcast saying, yo, who does this IP address belong to? So anybody can come claiming that yes, this particular message that is on this IP address belongs to him. He is unable to, identify the MAC address itself. He's unable to, identify it. Unlike a switch that identifies it, a hub does not identify it. So I had to, do these words first so that when we go on and we begin to say some things, it is easy for you to be able to, understand. And that's why I had to start with all that first before we go on. Okay, so let's go to this class. Everything I've said so far, they are pretty much important, right? So, but I had to do that. So now we are talking about sniffing. Remember, we are on network level attacks, the kind of attacks that can, exist or can happen on a network. And number one of them is called sniffing, packets sniffing. We already spoke about sniffing already. Yeah? So packets sniffing is, the process of monitoring and capture all the data packets that goes through a network. What an attacker wants to do is he wants to be able to, monitor the packets. He wants to be able to, capture them and sniff them just for whatever it is that he wants to do. As you know, so that the informations that in the packets are whatever it is that you are sending. So the same way, if you want to log in from one, you're trying to, log in Facebook, log in whatever it is from one end to the other, the attacker can, stand in between them and sniff it. Now look at the picture that we have on the screen, which I believe everybody can see my screen. And if you cannot see it, kindly, notify as soon as possible. You can see Smith, you can see the receiver, which is called Lina, L-E, Lina. Now you can see that the attacker is standing in between the communication between switch and Lina. So what the attacker is trying to do is trying to, I remember it's at the network level that this attack is going. Do you get? So the attacker is now sniffing the packet from the switch. If you can see it, it's copying the data that is passing through the switch. So it means that the attacker is able to, find his way, manipulate the switch, and therefore he gets every packet that is getting sent from Mr. A to Mr. B. Now, how does the sniffer work? I think we already said that already. The attacker just stands in between the sender and the receiver by, forcing the switch to be like an hub. Remember, we spoke about what an hub is. We spoke about what the switch is, so I don't think we want to go back to that anymore. So with the picture there, you can see that the attacker is forcing the switch to be like an hub. It means that he's forcing the switch not to be able to, identify who is supposed to send the message to. Instead, he just sends a broadcast that, yo, if this message belongs to you, you can come and, make a demand for it. So that's what the attacker wants to do. He wants to force the, the hub to behave like a switch. Now, you're seeing shared internet. What's shared internet here? And the other one you are seeing here, switch internet. The shared internet is just getting to talk about how, an hub gets to function. Why the switched internet here talks about how, a switch gets to, function. Oh, and yes, I was talking about what an ARP is, which I did not think I said, but yes, ARP is called Address Resolution Protocol. It's called Address Resolution Protocol. And now what that does is ARP is what connects your IP address to your MAC address. It means yes, how are you able to connect it together? So what ARP does is ARP is the one that knows, or is a system put in place, right, that is able to connect your IP address back to your MAC address. In simple terms, what it does is to resolute your IP address to your MAC address, so that whatever it is you are doing on the internet, yes, he understands. Remember, what a switch will do is a switch just gets to save it. It saves the MAC address, it saves the IP address, so that it knows who it belongs to. But what ARP does is the system in place that even helps it identify each other at first. The ARP gets to do that, and it gets to do its own job properly and very good. So that's what ARP is. So now, like we say, you already explained what ARP is. I remember, right, this is a network level attack, right? So now, in the case that the ARP is able to, or what it does normally, like I said already, it maps the IP address to the MAC address. So what the attacker is going to do is, attacker is going to send fake ARP, replies. So this is what gets to happen. Now, when you are sending a packet from a particular end, right, you know that the packet has to come from one individual and go to the other the receiver connects to his MAC address. So what the attacker gets to do is attacker gets to spoof the ARP so that the message that is supposed to go to Mr. B, which is the receiver, comes to himself. And what he does is he just spoofs what it does is to spoof the MAC address. I know so that any message that comes from the IP address has to go to the MAC address. So what the attacker gets to do at this point is spoof the MAC address to the point that any message that is supposed to go to the MAC address is unable to go to the original, but instead it goes to the MAC address of the attacker. And the next one you are seeing there is MAC flooding. Now, MAC flooding as well is also an attack on the switch. I know so that what a switch normally does, right? A switch keeps the MAC address table, right? It has a table whereby it's able to identify the MAC address and the IP address. So what an attacker will do is attacker will send plenty fake MAC address to the point that the switch will become full. Remember, the switch keeps a record of the IP address and the MAC address. Now, what an attacker will do is attacker will send plenty MAC address to the point that the table or wherever it is that it stores the MAC address and the IP address becomes full. And when it becomes so full, what happens? The switch that will know that that is intelligent, that is able to that is able to connect the IP address to the MAC address, now begins to function like an hub. It means it's unable to connect anymore. So it gets to the point whereby it now begins to ask, oh, I am with a message. Who does it belong to? So it means that what an attacker gets to do is send so much MAC address that the switch now begins to behave like an hub. And that's why I had to explain switch and hub in the beginning. Because what I would have just said here, what I would have just said in this place is that what attacker gets to do is send excessive MAC address and make the switch begin to behave like an hub. But I know that many of us may not understand, and that's why I took my time to explain what a switch is and what an hub is at the beginning of the class. Nothing about that. So there are types of sniffing, which is number one, the passive, and number two, we have the active. Now, for a passive sniffing, what the attacker gets to do at this point is the attacker gets to stand in between the network and just get to monitor the traffic. It means that he really does not have a direct interaction between anybody. And if you can see what is here, refers to sniffing through a hub where traffic is sent to all ports. Yes, and like we said, what an hub is, right? An hub does not map to anybody, just sends it to everybody. So what the attacker gets to do at this point is the attacker does not have to interact with a particular individual. He does not have to stop the flow of traffic. All he has to do is just to interact with it at the hub level. Now the next one that we have there is active. Active sniffing is used to sniff on a switch-based network. We already spoke about what a switch is, so I don't think we need to go back to that. Just be able to identify it. So well that a switch has intelligence, why a hub does not have intelligence. So for the one that does not have intelligence, the attacker does not have to do, does not have to do an active probing. He just has to just stay there and just wait for the hub to shout, who does it belong to? He just say, oh, it belongs to me, and he gets it, and that's the way that gets to do. We already spoke about ARP, and I don't think we have to go back to that. So the next one we have here is MAC flooding. I think we already spoke about MAC flooding already. Yes, we spoke about that when the attacker gets to send excessive MAC address to the point that the switch now begins to behave like an hub, and it has no choice than now to say, okay, I cannot store MAC addresses anymore. What I'm going to do is just send out I'm just going to do a broadcast, and anybody that the MAC address belongs to, or anybody that the IP address belongs to, or the message belongs to, can go ahead and claim it. The next one that we have there is DNS poisoning. Now DNS called domain name system, and at some cases you can hear it being called domain name server. Now what DNS does is the DNS is a system put in place that is that turns a URL to an IP address. If you are visiting a new website, for example facebook.com, it is a domain, all right, but in the backend, right, the server communicates with IP address. So this website you are typing as facebook.com in the backend, converts to IP address, because that's what the server is going to communicate with. So the system put in place that gets to translate the domain name to an IP address is called DNS, and that's what that is. So for the DNS, what happens is an attacker injects fake DNS entry, right? And the users are redirected to malicious websites, even though the URL looks correct. Now, what this gets to mean is, you know that when you type facebook.com on your browser, right, it has to connect to the IP address and therefore send you everything that the IP address, is giving to you on your screen. Just the time frame that you type facebook.com, you don't know that a lot of things has actually happened. Now, you know that the HTML, the whole front end thing, whatever that is displaying on your end, is coming from a server. Do you get? So now what the attacker is going to do at this point is going to, inject the DNS query so that even though you are visiting the correct domain, it is connecting to a fake or a wrong IP address. So in that way, you can be going to a correct site, but in the back end you are getting connected, to the attacker's server, and that thing is actually going to work so well when there is, an issue with the build up of the website, either a software issue, either an outdated technology. But those things are actually always done when there's a vulnerability on the, target, blah blah. So I think next one there is ARP poisoning, which we already spoke about, so I'm not going to be doing that again. So the next one there is DHCP. Now, what DHCP does is it assigns IP address automatically. The system put in place to assign IP address. It means that there is, a system put in place that assigns when you want to visit or when you want to connect to a network, there is a system put in place, that assigns your computer an IP address on the network, and the system put in place is called DHCP. So for DHCP attack, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker gets to request all available IP address. Like the attacker gets to, he requests all available IP address to the point that there is no longer the DHCP will no longer be able to, assign anybody trying to, connect to the network and IP address anymore. That's what a DHCP attack gets to do. The next one we have this switch ports stealing. Now, what the attacker gets to do is this attack targets switch forwarding behavior. Attacker sends packets with spoofed source mark. I know so well that we already spoke about switch, and at this point, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker gets to spoof a MAC address and gets to send the packet from the spoof MAC address. And what gets to happen now? The switch gets to update its MAC address. Remember we spoke about that. The switch gets to store MAC address and the IP address so that it's able to identify who the message gets to belong to. Now, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker gets to spoof MAC address, right? And therefore, what the attacker gets to do is he now communicates with the switch based on a spoofed MAC address. And what will the switch think? The switch will think that, oh, this IP address belongs to a real individual, and what the switch gets to do is the switch gets to store the MAC address, and in that way the traffic meant for the victim now goes to the attacker. Why? Because the victim has now taken the MAC address that belongs to the attacker. I remember that the switch identifies the IP address, he identifies the MAC address, right? So when a message is coming that is supposed to send to the MAC address, now that the attacker has spoofed, has taken charge of the legitimate, individual's MAC address, any message that is supposed to go to the real individual now goes to the victim. Why? Because the victim has, spoofed, the MAC address of the original individual. The next one there is spoofing attack. Spoofing is just pretending to be somebody you are not on the network. Yes, stealing somebody's IP address, stealing somebody's MAC address, stealing somebody's email address, just pretending to be who you are not to get the information that is supposed to be delivered to the individual. That's what spoofing attack is. Yes. Okay. Let's go forward. We need to work with time as we still have practicals to do. So how an attacker acts the network using sniffers are like just different ways or the step by steps that an attacker gets to hack the network using a sniffer. There's different tools that you can use to sniff. So just in case if you're wondering what a sniffer is, There are different tools. Sniffers are just tools, right, that you can use to, sniff in between a network. Okay, so protocols that are vulnerable to sniffing. Number one, we have our telnet, and what telnet does, right? Telnet is a remote login protocol. It means the protocol put in place for you to be able to, log into your server remotely, and that's telnet functions on port 23. And in the case whereby the telnet is not configured properly, right, what gets to happen is when you are trying to, since you're accessing it remotely, there's going to be username and password. Yes. So in the case whereby it's not configured properly, an attacker can get to, sniff your credentials while you're trying to log in, and he can log in and pretend to be you and get access to every single thing. The next one that you have this HTTP. Now HTTP is used to access your website. Whenever you want to access your website, say that you go on with HTTP or HTTPS. Now HTTP is not secured, and it is always, it works on port 80. Now HTTP is not secured. It means that everything that goes on HTTP is not encrypted. Therefore, they are in plain text, and your attacker gets to see it. The next one you have there is POP. POP is called Post Office Protocol. Right? It's actually a system put in place for you to retrieve emails from a server, whereby you have your email on the server and you want to retrieve it. That's like the protocol put in place for that. Now that's also very effective, but if not, done if it's not configured well, the password is going to be in plain text, and attackers can get to, sniff it and do whatever it is that he wants to do with it. The next one in place is IMAP, and what that does is to, it allows anybody or the user to be able to access and manage emails on the server. Remember, the first one is, retrieving from the server. Why this one is, access it directly on the server. So the email is not getting out of the server. It's just, it remains on the server. And when it's not configured well, and yes, this one as well, it's actually better than POP. It's actually, better, like it's a more, it's actually more modernized. But at the end of the day as well, if not properly, configured, an attacker can get to, sniff through it and can see the password in plain text. And that is on port 25. So, oh no, that's not port 25. Okay, next one there is SMTP. Yes, SMTP is the one that works on ports 25. Now, simple mail transfer protocol, that's what SMTP means. It is used to send emails. That's the protocol put in place for sending emails from one point to the other. And that one handles outgoing emails, and that it's on port, that one is on port 25. And as well, if not configured well, attackers can get to sniff it. The next one you have this FTP, which is called File Transfer Protocol. That's the protocol put in place to share files from one end to another, and that's always on port 21. That one as well, if not configured well, your password will be sent on plain text. Now, the configured way is going to be when it has FTPS. The S there is going to be secured, but when it's on just FTP, is not secured, the password will be sent on plain text. And I think that's that about that. So let's go down. Everything are just like further explanations on them, which we will not be going through as we are going to be working with them. I think we already spoke about MAC flooding, so I don't think we're going to be doing that again. These are just like, techniques through which sniffing can be done. MAC flooding, which we already spoke about, so I want to be going through that again. And this is like a tool you can use for that called Markov. Yes, Markov is actually a very good tool for that. Let's go on and go to the next thing there. Okay, so I think what we have here next is DHCP starvation. I don't know if we already spoke about that, but if we haven't, I'm just going to re-explain that just to ensure that we all have a proper understanding. I know that there is going to be lots of questions, which don't worry, we are going to attend to before the end of the class. Okay, so DHCP is a configuration protocol. Remember, we spoke about that, and what that does is gets assign IP addresses to everybody on a network. And for DHCP starvation, very similar to DHCP attack. That's when the attacker gets to request all the IP addresses, and therefore there's no longer available IP address. And what happens? The switch now begins to behave like an orb, and you're good to go. Next one is ARP. I think we already spoke about ARP, and we spoke about ARP spoofing already. So I don't think I'm going to be going back to that. Remember ARP, address resolution protocol. I know what that does. That's what gets assign IP address to you on your local area network. We already spoke about that already, so I don't think we want to go back to that. There's also lists an ARP spoofing tool called ARP Spoof. You can check that out. For those of you that have the terminals, and those that don't have it, you can get to download it and you have your terminal running. You can do that. Okay, we already spoke about MAC address spoofing as well. Yeah, spoke about that already. I don't think I want to go back to that. I think we spoke about DNS poisoning too. Yes, I think we spoke about that. Now, what this one means is corrupting the DNS record. I remember we already spoke about what a DNS is, and what an attacker gets to do is just, the attacker gets to inject fake DNS entries so that when you're trying to access the original website, it directs you to the websites that the attacker wants. So I think that's what DNS poisoning is. We already spoke about that already. So we'll not be talking about that again. Like you have, and also, next thing you have here is also like a sniffing tool, which is called Wireshark. I believe most of you would actually have this tool already, so I don't think I have to go back to explain what these tools are. And yes, but a good tool you can use for sniffing tools are Wireshark. Yes. So just in case when you're able to connect to somebody's network, you can turn on your Wireshark and you can capture all the traffic. You can save them, and when you have time, sit down and analyze the traffic for any valuable thing that you'll be finding there. Understand about that? So okay, next one is just countermeasures. To ensure that spoofing does not go through, restrict physical access, end-to-end encryption, ensure that things are encrypted, permanently add a MAC address of the gateway, and this is going to avoid spoofing. In this way, the attacker cannot spoof a MAC address and send it to the point that the switch will now get to think that yes, the MAC address coming from the attacker is the original MAC address, whereas not. So ensure that there's a permanent MAC address already on the switch so that it's not updated with the wrong one. Use a static IP address and ARP table. Yes, what this means is just ensure that you have a static IP address on the ARP table. And the reason why you want to do this thing is so that the attacker, will not end up, claiming an IP address that does not belong to him, and therefore communicating with the gateway with a wrong IP address. Since you already have a static IP address, if a wrong IP address begins to communicate, the server or the network is able to identify, yeah, this is wrong, and therefore it does not work with it. Turn off network identification broadcast. This works with an orb, like we said earlier. What the orb is, the orb just gets make a broadcast trying to identify who is this person, who is this person, and therefore it makes information that is supposed to be sent to a particular individual, makes it available for everybody. And that's what that is. Sniffing detection technique, ping method. Ping is just it's just like you're sending an echo request, just like who is there, and once you do a ping, you always get a response, and with the response you get to know if the IP address getting to send you a response matches with the original IP address, or the MAC address matches with the original IP address. And that happens, imagine when you're getting a request from a computer and you're trying to ping them back and it's not going through, you can tell that something is actually up, because in a normal way, once you send the ping, you're supposed to it's supposed to go through and you're supposed to get a response right away. But if your ping is going through and not getting a response, then something is off. So you can use that to detect that sniffing is ongoing. And I'm talking fast again. I'll try not to forget this time around. Okay, and that one is ARP method, only the machine and the I think I think I forgot to talk about what promiscuous mode is. I thought I was going to talk about that, but yeah, I think I forgot. But don't worry, I think as this class goes on, I'll probably have to talk about that, yes, because it's part of what we are going to be talking about. But yes, let's just continue. Okay, ping method, we already spoke about that. DNS method, that is, how that gets to work. And ARP method, or the social protocol. Yep. Next one we have here is denial of service, which is called DOS. Denial of service is just whereby an attacker gets to send an excessive packet to a computer just to ensure that it restricts or reduces its performance. When you say that, now not in every case, right? In some cases, it can be either there is, a malware on your system, but in a case whereby your computer is working and suddenly begins to hang, right? Something it can be that there is, a DOS service, a DOS attack ongoing on your computer. A DOS attack is just called denial of service, with the word denying you the service that you're supposed to be able to render. That's just, what that's just what DOS is. So it's really nothing, to be worried about. So that's about that. Okay. I think there are different types of DOS attack. Okay, the next one here is DDoS attack. Now, DDoS attack is like DOS attack, but for the case of DDoS attack, it is not targeted at a computer. DDoS attack most times targeted like a server, targeted towards a very big thing. And in this case, remember that you send packets. Packets is just the normal message you get to send. But in a DDoS attack, you send, excessive packets than the particular target can handle. Now, in a DDoS attack, for example, like a server, so that a server can handle loads of packets. So it means that the numbers of packets that you'll be sending to do a DDoS attack on a computer will not be equivalent to the amount of packets you will send to a server. Hence, why there is the existence of botnet. Now, what is a botnet? A botnet is just different compromised computer brought together to do the desire of the attacker, and that's why you call them a bot. You know how bots are, right? And sometimes you can also call them zombies. I rather call them zombies, and the reason why I rather call them zombies is you've seen the movies, right? Zombies, they just go one way, they don't turn back, right? So the moment the attacker gets to compromise this computer, the attacker can bring everything together and therefore use everything to do an attack on the server. And the reason why it needs plenty computer is just because the server works with loads of packets. For example, let's say that your computer can only take 1,000 packets notes, for example, and your server can take like 10,000 packets, and it's going to be way more than that. So now imagine that since it's one since your computer just needs 1K packet, therefore all you need to do is just to get like 10 computers, and you get your 1K packets. You can run a DOS attack on the computer, and the computer begins to crash. Now you cannot send that same 1K packet to a server that can work with 10K packet. It will be of no effect. Do you understand? So it means that you need different computers, that you would have compromised and use everything at the same time to send as many packets as possible, to the point that there is excessive packet on the server and the server can get to crash. And that's about DOS attack. So let's go down. Okay, now let's talk about DOS attack technique. Now I think I would have spoken about what UDP is and TCP. Now the way a TCP works, TCP, when you are sending a message from Mr. A to Mr. B, the protocol put in place to ensure that your message from Mr. A gets to Mr. B is the TCP. Why for UDP? UDP does not care if the receiver gets it or not. All it wants to do is just to ensure that he sends it and just dumps it. As long as the receiver is able to find his way to be able to get it. Why for TCP is more secured. It ensures that yes, the message gets to who is supposed to get to. So what an attacker wants to do is attacker sends spoofed UDP packet at a very high rate, like just sends it plenty of them to ensure that it gets to the target. And if it's going to be a computer, lots of them, to the point that the computer begins to hang or is unable to do that which is supposed to do in any way possible. Now that's for the UDP, and that one is ICMP. ICMP is just like an echo. Now what that means is just like say, "Hi, are you there?" What the way ICMP packets is just to check if there's error. For example, you're trying to communicate with another computer and it's not going through. You can just do your ICMP, which is you ping just to check if that particular or the person you're trying to send a message to is active or not. So what you're going to do is just send an ICMP request through pinging. You want to send it to an IP address or the network, just ping. Let's say the IP address is 10.10.1.11. That's just a normal ping. Now in this case, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker now gets to send it than the normal way. Normally you can send like 2, you can send like three or 4. in this point, the attacker does not send that way. He sends them as much as possible to the point that the requests that are coming in, are now way more than the target can actually get to handle, to the point that the target now begins to, misbehave. That's it about that. Okay. Ping of death attack. Now, this is just when you get to ping your target until it dies, or like it begins to malfunction, like it just spoils fully. Right, where you get to ping a computer to the point that it crashes, or you ping a server to the point that it crashes. Remember the ones we spoke about earlier, you just ping it to the point where it cannot function the way it's supposed to function, like either hang and all those things. But for this one, you ping it until it dies fully, until the attacker crash, like until your computer just goes off and does not turn on again. That is ping of death. Okay. Now, techniques that attackers get to use. We have the smurf attack. The smurf attack is, a DS attack, also making use of ICMP, which we already spoke about. Remember, if you can look at it here, what it does is to, send large numbers of ICMP request packets on an IP broadcast on network. Just send them, excessive of them to the point that you can no longer handle it, and that's how smurf attack gets to work. Okay, it's saying a three-way handshake. You have your SYN, you have your SYN arc, and you have your arc. I think the best example I will give to that, or the way that was able to stick in my head, was you go to somebody's house, you knock, knock, knock. The person gets to ask who is there, and you reply, it is John. So now you see the SYN in the picture as you getting to knock. You see the SYN arc as the person responding who is there, and you see the arc responding, yes, it is me. So what the attacker gets to do in this point, the attacker gets to send a large number of SYN requests with fake source IP address. It means that he has spoofed an IP address. So it means he's getting to send large numbers of sync with somebody else's IP address. Now remember that you get to knock, 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 and the person inside gets to say who is there. So it means that there's going to be a response. So now the target machine, right, now gets to send back a response saying, yo, who is there? And the next thing that is supposed to happen is you are supposed to tell yourself it's John. Right? So what the attacker gets to do in this point is he only sends a SYN arc, a synchronizing. It means like he gets to knock and you get to respond who is there, and therefore the attacker does not say anything again. And what does that and what happens to the receiver? Gets to wait and wait and wait and wait. And what the attacker gets to do is the attacker gets on doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that till the point that the person inside is frustrated. So in just the same way it works on a computer. Once the attacker keeps on sending an excessive SYN, okay, it gets to the point that the device no longer is unable to undo it, and either begins to hang, or it just is unable to function the way it's supposed to function. Just the same way an is going to be. Imagine you go to somebody's house and begin to knock and knock and knock and knock. There's a point that you will knock to that the person will come out angrily. Now the person that was cool and functioning fine in the house before now comes out angrily and burst out. So the same way the person burst out, it means that the person is no longer doing what he would have done, now getting to function in another way due to the excessive knocking. And that's just the same way this particular SYN flood attack gets to work. I hope you understand that. So hold on, please. Let me check the chat box to see if there are any questions. So I want to ensure that yes, I am answering questions, just in case if there are questions that is among what I'm talking about, so that we can do them together. Hold on. Yes, FTP port, yes, correct. Okay, so I think any other thing. Okay, so you're struggling to see my screen. Okay, somebody said it's from your end, so yes, I think it is better here. Okay, so let's just continue from there. Okay, the next one we have here is DOS attack. Yes, fragmentation. Now, this is what actually happens. This attack stops the victim from being able to reassemble fragmented packets. Now, what fragmented packets means is that when you are sending your packet, right, it is like a message. But in this point, what happens is that the packet is broken into pieces instead of it going as a whole. For example, when you're sending a message as a whole, it now breaks into pieces. Now, in this way, right, when it now gets into the target's computer or system, right, I know since they're coming in fragments, they become way much. than the target web server can actually handle. Normally, right, let's say it is supposed to be 4 packets that is coming from your end. So what the attacker gets to do is to break that form, break it to like 500, and that way it becomes more plenty. And once it keeps on coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming, it now gets to the point whereby as it gets to the target, the target computer will be trying to assemble it, try to make sense out of each one. So what the moment it keeps on coming and keeps on coming, it gets to the point that the target computer or the server is unable to handle it while, because what the attacker is doing is the attacker still keeps on getting to send, and after a while it's either it breaks down or whatever it is that the attacker gets to intend gets to do. If he wants to ping it till he dies, that's still dependent on the hacker, and if he wants to ping it to the point whereby it is unable to function well, that's still dependent on the hacker, or based on how much packets it gets to send to it, and that's how the fragmentation attack gets to work. Now, for the multi-vector attack, the attacker gets to deal with every form that we've spoken about earlier, either sending so much packet that is for the volume. It means if it is so much, or either if it's getting to send it through the protocol, or if it's going to be an application level attack. But this kind of multi-vector attack is the attacker gets to send every kind of packet available. And the reason is so that just in case, if you have security in place that can stop one, you probably will not have security in place that can stop the entire 30 of them. So another one that we have here is peer-to-peer. Now, the way peer-to-peer gets to work is, if you get to look at the picture very well, these 5 individuals here, aside the attacker, they've over time built trust, and they are able to communicate with each other without without mistrust or whatever it is. So what the attacker gets to do here is the attacker gets to take advantage of the trust that gets to exist between the 3. Now, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker instruct one of the clients of sharing up to disconnect on the pure. So what the attacker gets to do is just attack one of the user. And mind you, since the 5 of them trust each other, therefore it can make use of one from that particular one, get to attack the remaining 4. And in this way, right, you can actually turn the 5 of them either to a zombie, and if it does not want to do that, it can get to connect them to a fake website. And the reason why that is very possible, even after attacking one, is just because the 5 of them, they trust each other, and they do not get to check any traffic that is coming from them. So what the attacker needs to do is just to attack one of them. The moment he gets to attack one of them, the many are vulnerable. Why? Because trust actually gets to exist between them. DDoS techniques and permanent denial of service attack. Yes, this one, this is a kind of attack whereby the effect is irreversible. This kind of attack can damage your computer fully, can damage your hardware to the point that it's going to be beyond repair. Yes, this also can be done by DOS attack, whereby it destroys your computer fully, and that's just what that means. Permanent denial of service attack. Okay. Distributed reflection. Okay. The Dr. Does. I'm just going to call that Dr. Does. Okay. Also known as private attack, involves the use of intermediary and secondary machines. This is when the attacker gets to attack a particular computer, and therefore he use that particular one that he has actually attacked to begin to attack others too. And that's the way this kind of attack gets to work. You have a target, but you get to hack one from that one, you get to use it to hack another one, then you use them together to be able to attack your target, or you send as much packet as you want to send until your target gets to crash, whatever it is that happens to him. Now, HPing is a DOS attack tool which you can always check online. You can get to see it. Reading what is there, you are trying to the first one is getting to spoof an IP address. You can see it, -, get it to spoof an IP address, so that you're getting to unflood a particular IP address, but you're going to claim to be one. And if you get to check it, look at numbers of packets that was sent there. You have 37,000 packets from a spoofed IP address. So, but that's like one of the two you can get to use. You can get to use HPing, you can get to use blah blah blah. You can see them, so you can write them down if you need them, and you can go through them for whatever it is you want to do. Ethically, by the way. Okay, since you get to find it, you get to find like countermeasures and all that. You can go ensure that you use strong encryption mechanism to avoid its dropping. Ensure that software is up so they do not use unsecured. To ensure that you don't use any unsecured service, block all inbound packets originating from ports. Just ensure that you know everything are put in place to ensure that DDoS or DOS is actually avoided. Next one that we have here is session hijacking. Okay, now session hijacking allows attackers to take over an active session by passing the authentication process. Now, this happens after the victim, I mean, has logged in, and after you log in, you get a section ID that proves that yes, you have been verified and you're allowed to be on this particular network at that particular time. So what the attacker wants to do is the attacker wants to find a way to be able to hijack your session. That way, he gets to remain on the network like you were the one, or like you are the one on the network. Remember, you only get your ID after you've been authenticated. Hence, the attacker can pretend to be you, and it goes like that. So, different types of session hijacking attack. Okay, these are still further explanations on session hijacking, which I don't think I'm going to be going through. Now, why is session hijacking? Why is it successful? Absence of accounts. Look out for invalid session ID, weak session ID algorithm. Now, what that actually gets to mean is that some of the when you get to login, right, a section ID is going to be assigned to you. Some of them, the algorithm that get to assign it can be handling them in either 1, 2. It means your session ID can be 01 and that can be 02. So when that algorithm is not properly done, it becomes something that the attacker can always do, and it can always be successful. Insecure handling, indefinite session timeout. Now, what that one gets to mean is that when like Facebook now, right? Just saying, right? Not really saying Facebook is vulnerable to that, no. But like when you get to log in after a particular while, it's supposed to like log you out, and therefore you log in again, and it's going to assign you a new a new a
Something,
new
am I audible?
yes, sir.
All right, please let's go on a 10 minutes break. I'll be back by 3:10.
So welcome back to the class. I think I remember that I promised that there was going to be practical. So yes, we spoke about sniffing, and we spoke about ARP poisoning and all that. So we are going to be doing our first practical for today, and one few things we are going to be doing includes how an attacker gets to ARP. What the attacker gets to do is the attacker gets to steal a victim's IP address. Now, in that way, uh, two different IP address can be, or one IP address can be on two different MAC address. So we are going to be doing a demonstration of that. But the end of the day, right, it's always going to be based on the intention of the attacker. Okay, so let us get to that. And I'm going to have to like share my screen because I think I'm only sharing the material page. So I'll share my lab screen right away. Okay, can you hold on while I do that? And we are going to be making use of two windows, right? And the reason why we are doing that is so that we are going to be making use of one as the victim, and we're going to be making use of the other as the attacker. We're going to be making use of a tool called Cain and Abel, and also going to be making use of, a sniffing tool called HPing, and I think we saw that there. So kindly hold on while I reshare again. Okay, if you can see my lab, kindly, kindly react just to be sure that yes, we're able to see my screen. If you can see my lab, kindly react. Okay, thank you. I've seen a reaction. Okay, good. Now let's proceed to it. Like I said, we're going to be using a tool called Cain and Abel. So I'm going to be switching to my Windows 2019. As you know, this is like a practical and really not, but it's something this is like a simulated attack. Let's start it. And I think yesterday somebody said he has a Kali Linux. So Kali Linux also still works. Like I said, Kali operates still based on your preference, but you should always have like a Windows whereby you get to do your practice on. Okay, so we're going to start. Kindly follow me and ensure that we work together. This is the IP address of my particular computer, the particular computer I am on now. Let me show you that. You can check your IP address with your command prompts, or you can check it through your network. So I'm going to use my command prompts. Making use of ipconfig, you find your IP address there. So those of you with you can always check that on your computer too. Almost everybody has a computer with them. So you can just type ipconfig and you will be able to find your IP address. So I've turned on the tool and this is my IP address. So we are trying to configure this. Then we go on to the next phase. Okay. So next one we're going to be doing, we're going to like start or stop the sniffer, but what we're going to do, we are starting the sniffer. Remember, we are going to act like an attacker and we are going to be sniffing. So this is it here. Start or stop. So remember, this is going to be my target IP address. Remember, I have my parrot here, which I can show you the IP address. Don't worry. So this is just administrative rights. Don't worry about that. That doesn't really matter. For your parrot terminal, it's going to be IF. Why? For your window, it's going to be IP. So just in case if you're wondering what I'm typing, I have my IP address there, somewhere up there, which is 10.10.1.13. That's our IP address. And that does not matter. So let's go back to our windows. So then we already started the sniffer. Then we clicked on our sniffer tab, and that's how we got here. Just in case of those that are going along with us and doing this. I don't know. Okay, I thought somebody just ready to talk, but that's fine. So just in case if anybody's doing it along, that's why I'm trying to ensure that I'm a little slow so that you can do it along with me. Remember, what we're looking out for is how an attacker gets to, steal somebody's IP address and gets to use the IP address. So you can have, why the target has the IP address, the attacker as well can be using the same IP address. One IP address can, be routing to two MAC addresses. So that's what we're going to be doing now. So what we are doing is just doing a alt text so that we can find out the IP addresses that we have. Oh yes, somebody's raising up your hand. Please kindly unmute and talk. I can see your hand up. If you want to talk, kindly use up your hand and talk, please.
Hi, good evening. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is Azim. I asked
Yes.
this same question last week with the last instructor, Mr. Tim Lane, and I asked if the internship group, the SIP students, are to fend for these tools themselves, or we can be provided with these tools. Like the last class, I asked that question, but I don't really get what Mr. Timlane said then. Because right now, to follow up with what you are doing, as someone that has the necessary lab to use, being on this offensive, I really don't know the things to use. But when I'm seeing it, it's very easy for me to have it and follow up. So in my own case now, being an internship, is it possible that the organization provides us with these tools so we can do the practicals on our own, or is it just for the other cybersecurity, the cyber entry people? And then
No.
if they're not able to provide it for us,
Okay, let
can
me
we
come
just
in.
okay, Mr. Timmy, good
Freeway
afternoon.
speaking. Hello?
What do you say?
Who is speaking? I didn't get your name.
Azim. I can hear you, Azim.
Okay, are you at HIT or cyber entry program?
Internship.
Okay. So these tools, you're not going to get them. They're only for courses, right? People that come in for our courses. It's not meant for either this program or internship. But if you need any other tools in internship, we will let you know by that time. But for these essentials, it's just to showcase you what we do in our normal class. And that's what we are doing.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so let's just continue. So now we've been able to, okay, I'm seeing so many hands up. I remember we're working with time, it is 3:20 already, and the class is supposed to end by 6. So kindly ask your questions. If it's something we can work with, we need to be fast about it. Please, 1 minute each. Thank you. Kindly let me turn talk.
Hello, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, this is Sardonyx, sir. Sorry, I was lost. I didn't know how you got to that stage.
Oh, looks like you're following, right? You have like your lab and you're following through. Is that it?
No, I don't. I just left church now, so I'm with my phone, so
Okay.
I'm not on the laptop. So
We are just doing it's just like a demonstration, right, of what an
yes,
attacker
I
is
know,
going to be doing.
I know you are doing a demonstration. I just want you to
Start
just
again,
maybe
Abby.
5 step back, sir.
5
Just
step back is just like the beginning now. Like I don't think I've
okay,
taken
sir.
more than
If you say so, sir.
I've not taken more than 5 steps in everything I'm doing here. So just like the beginning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, please. If I'm going to be doing this, just last time, we need to be time conscious. Please, we need to be time conscious, and we understand that you people are precious, and that's why we are giving time for questions. So I'm going to quit it, which I don't want to. Yes, but starting again, opening the tool, Kenan Abel. Okay, so the tool is up.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. So I asked a question in the chat,
Chat.
so
All right, just give.
I'll just say it anyway. So I'm like, this IP address that is spoofed now is not only routers that you can spoof IP addresses, you can also spoof IP addresses of normal users too in a network,
Yes,
right?
yes, you can.
So if I'm the threat actor and I spoof anybody's IP address, can I get caught?
Well, yes, you can be caught. You'll be at the end of the day, right? This is just the whole idea. If they want to catch you, they will catch you. Now, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if FBI or police or whatever want to catch you, you can be caught. And that's just your idea. Now, they are so I understand that everybody wants to be anonymous, and therefore they feel like, yeah, if I spoke someone's IP address, then I'm good to go. Now, we're not saying that's not going to work, but like few things that getting to spoof somebody's IP address is going to do for you is that it's going to give you access to every traffic that's supposed to go to the person. Now, I know that you're also getting to look at it from the point that
Yes.
you get to use the person's identity, and all those things. But yes, you can still be caught. Don't try this at all. It's not about that. So yeah.
Can you also use the IP address to browse?
Just like saying that you are
That spoofed
getting.
IP address.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can use them to browse. As long as you're still visiting the network, you can use to browse. Yes, since the IP address is actually assigned to
So
you by the network, you can access the network with the IP address.
So it's actually possible for two devices or something to have the same IP.
Yes, yes, it's very possible. That is what we are That's what we are about to demonstrate. And at the end of the day, we are going to check our packets with Wireshark, and you will see that we have our one IP address now has two MAC addresses assigned to it. Okay, so we are going to go back to our work. Okay, so yeah, this is just this is the Canon Abel which I've actually opened. So for the person that actually answered, please, the first thing I did was to click on configure. So please kindly follow through as I do not want us to go back to this. I clicked on the MAC address of this is me now. This is my Windows 20. 19 with the IP address 10.10.1.19, and that's what I clicked on. So yes, I've clicked OK. That's like just to configure it, and that's that about that. Like next time I'm going to like start the sniffer with this yellow whatever it is that looks like a virus. Let me make the screen bigger for those that cannot see it well. Okay, yes, this is better. So I did this to start, gives you a warning, okay, and you progress with that. So I have started it that way. Okay, so next thing is to go to this plus symbol here. Oh, not the plus, the sniffer instead, not the plus. Yeah, sniffer. No, I missed that up. And this is the IP address of our
Can you
target.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This thing email tool that you're using, did you install it on your Windows server?
Yes, this Canon email. Yes, I installed it. It's a tool that's going to be made available for
Okay.
you. If you're doing our program, you can install it and you have it on your Windows.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's it about that. Then actually I have my MAC address. This is the IP address of my target 10.10.1.13. Okay, so I've done that. Next thing is like do a plus side node then. So all hosts, and this is why you want to do all hosts so that you can get to scan everybody out available for you, show you the IP address and show you their MAC address, and that's why you are clicking on all hosts. I also click on all tests so that you can do every ARP test that is possible. So we click OK and we get to proceed with that. That should be done in few seconds. It's taking so much time, which I do not like. Remember, we clicked on all, so that's why it's doing all ARP tests that exist. That should be done in time from now. I think this is the last one. I think it's like go through that. That's the last one. I can't really tell, but yes, let's just go through. Okay, yes. So I think that's all. Then now that we've actually seen, these are like the MAC address and these are the IP addresses that we've been able to check out with ARP, or these are like the ones stored in the ARP. Okay, so the next thing we are going to be doing is we're going to be clicking on this tab here, the API tab, for whoever that is following through. Now this is our IP address. Okay, I think we did this earlier before, so this doesn't really matter about that. Okay. Sorry, please. Can we pen all questions? We are having too many questions, and it's actually affecting what I am doing. I don't want to get distracted, and believe me, I'm getting distracted already. Okay, please. Let's just pause all our questions till later on, please. Thank you. There's no more questions. You're confusing me. Okay. Few things that I wait, but I'll configure and it's our IP address here. Okay. Then we went to our sniff. Then we started it here. Okay. We went to snipper. The new virtual machine.
Hello, sir. I've just forwarded it now, but I'm not seeing the exact job. Yes, sir. I'm not seeing the job box. That's what I'm saying.
I
I
believe
just
me.
did for the job.
Sorry, I don't know. Are you talking to me? Because I cannot hear what you're saying. If you're talking to me, believe me, I cannot hear what you're saying. Sorry, I cannot hear what you're saying.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I
Good
can hear you. I
afternoon.
can hear you. Yes.
Oh, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So just got along. So I want to confirm this. I've actually gotten my IP, but I don't know how you went about the Ken and Neighbor app because do I have to install it?
Do you have to do what?
To install the Ken and Neighbor app that I'm using for practical right now.
Yes, it's actually a tool. Are you looking into are you asking how you get that, or what are you asking in particular?
Yes, I've just gotten like type my IP address. I've got my IP address. So I'm trying to follow what you're doing on my PC, but like I don't know if you got the app. That's what I'm asking.
That means I actually have to like go back again, which is going to be taking time, and that's just because this is a more complicated one. And if this is something that's
I'm
going
sorry.
to be complicated, no, it's not about you, but we're looking at time, and going back and forth is going to be quite a lot. So if this is what's going to be taking our time, right, there's a possibility that I might actually have to like change whatever it is that we are doing, and and we might just have to like or do an FTP attack, whereby we get to like we're able to like attack an FTP or protocol, and we can connect to a target computer, and we can also crack the password to be able to communicate with it. And that is if this is going to be giving us so many issues, since we have to be doing the back and forth, which I don't want us to be doing.
Okay.
So do we just do an
Thank
easier
you.
one instead?
I think it's fine.
Okay. Just give me a few. Let me set that up. Okay, done. Okay. I was thinking about making an FTP server. We're going to be making use of a tool called Hydra. If this is going to be taking so much time for us, you'd have done the normal reconnaissance stage. You'd have done your scanning phase, whereby you would have found out that there is, a port opened. Well, I think I'm getting messages, so I think we just need to finish up with our Kenanibel. Okay. So let's just go on with our FTP. We're going to be using our pilot against Windows 11. I probably will set that up. This usually works for whatever reason that is not getting to work. It's supposed to come up, but that's fine. I'll get that sorted out and ensure that I fix that for you before the break time. Okay, so let's just get this done. Okay, this is too much using on my terminal already, but let that come up. I think we've spoken about file transfer protocol, which is our FTP. And now we're just going to assume that, but first and first, let's say our target is Windows 11, and we are trying to, you being the attacker, you're trying to, attack somebody that makes of Windows 11, and we're trying to find a way to, attack the FTP port. So the first thing we want to do is to check if the FTP port is actually open. Now, what we are actually going to be doing here is, like making hacking a web server and password cracking. We're going to be doing it two together, because first thing, we don't know the password that this particular individual have the password that you have set in place. So we're going to be doing this together. So the first thing we want to do is we need to know the kind of protocol he has running. So now, since it's going to be a simulated attack, let's assume that the attacker has done his research and he has found out that yes, some ports are actually available, and he has found out that port 21 is actually open. So we are going to be scanning Windows 11. Let me get it unlocked. Just the same way. It's going to look like the attacker or the victim has his computer turned on and active, just the same way it is going to be in a real life. So let's unlock that. Let's allow that come up. Let's just hold on for a few. That's probably going to come up. Whatever the delay is, it's going to come up. Just hold on. Okay, so this is Windows 11. This is up. So just assume this is the target, and assume pirate here is the attacker. So the first thing you want to do first is we want to scan Windows 11 to see what protocols do we have ongoing and what protocol is ongoing. You have it to like Nmap can do a very good scan for you. -P is you are specifying the port number, which is port 21. I remember we spoke about the port that FTP runs on. We know that FTP runs on port 21. So let's now remember we spoke about the IP address of I don't think I should do the IP address of Windows 11, but Windows 11 IP address is going to be 10.10.1.11. But let's assume that the victim has been able to get on the network. But I'm going to show you that like we did earlier. So let's just show you the IP address of Windows 11. Let that come up. So okay, the command prompt is up already. But for whatever reason, it's draggy. That's fine. I think that should come up. I just want to show you the IP address. Obviously, we can continue without showing you the IP address, but it's just so that you have a better understanding, just in case if you want to do this. So we spoke about checking IP addresses with IP config. So yes, we have an IP address. You can see it's IP address. Yes, 10.10.1.11. That's our IP address. So we can go back to our other pen system, which is pirate. It means now we already have the IP address of the target. Of the target, and maybe the attacker wants to scan it. So the IP address, like I said, is 10.10.1.11. So starting an nmap scan to discover the port that is actually opened on it. So that should come up anytime from now. So as you can see, we have port 21 opened. It means that this our target here now is has a vulnerability. The port 21 should not be open, should not be made available for the public. But when you are seeing this, it means that there's a vulnerability. So we are going to be exploiting the vulnerability on our victim's server. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to try to connect to that port, which is which we are going to be using FTP 10.10.1.11. That means we are trying to connect to it. So you can see it's connected. By the end of the day, it's asking us for our name, asking us for your identity. How do we get to login? So let's just assume that your name is John. Asking for a password. How do we get a password? Now, next, let's guess the password too. Let's assume password is admin. Cannot log in. Why? Because it doesn't identify the user. So next thing an attacker would want to do is, what can I do to get the password? How can I get the password? So next thing the attacker wants to do is what he wants to do password cracking, which I think we spoke about a bit. So now we are going to be trying to crack the password to be able to get access to the FTP server of our target. Remember, our target is Windows 11, and we're trying to connect to this FTP port. Okay, so I think we spoke about something like word list. Remember, we spoke about dictionary attack, and dictionary attack. The dictionary contains several words. Either it can be from a data breach that is made available online, and can be used to crack, just in case if your password is one that actually exists on database, the attacker can get to use it to find a way to connect back to you. So now we're going to be making use of word list, which I already have mine downloaded. You can always find that on GitHub. You can find the word list on GitHub. And for password cracking, we're going to be making use of a tool called Hydra. Use of a tool called Hydra. I'm just opening a tab so we can run our tool Hydra. So Hydra, that's the case of the tool. And now you need to identify where your word list is. It can be on the terminal. It can be on your desktop. It can be just to identify where it is. So I'm going to try to identify mine. I can use my ls. That's if I do not want to, go through, open the file manager itself, blah, blah, blah. I can go through my, I can type ls and go through my command line interface. So ls, that's the list, means list everything that I have there. And what we are trying to look for is we are trying to, find where this particular thing is located, where what is located. So I think I can see mine here on my desktop. Hold on. I think I said on my desktop earlier there. Let's just minimize this really too. So I think this is my word list here. So I'm going to be, making use of that. So I'm not okay, this is my desktop. See, I'm trying to change my directory, cd desktop. So it means I'm now on desktop directory. It means I am on this interface that you are seeing. So that means I actually have access to my word list. If I still want to change to my word list, I can always type cd word list and it gives me access to the word list. For example, cd word list. It is cap lock sensitive, so we want to ensure that we do not make a mistake there. Word list. So you can see that I can type my ls and you can find that I have username, I have password, and I have probably every other thing that I've created. So inside my password or my username, there will be so many, words, and those words can most time from data breach. Let me try to open them. Let me open one of them so that you can see what we have inside there. So for usernames, let that come up. You can see that we have loads of things here. You can see how plenty it is. You can see how much this is. Most of these things are, stuff that you got from a data breach. They are available online, so this is not like we did the data breach. It's not like we asked somebody. No, we don't do that here. You can find them on GitHub and you can, download them and use them for anything you will be doing. So, okay, let me close that. Then we can get to continue. Okay, now we're in the word list folder. Remember, we are making use of a tool called Hydra. So Hydra -L, that is you're trying to give it a location, but let's just go back so that we can work with what we have here. So let's do Hydra -L. Remember, we have not accessed desktop, so we want to access the desktop. The -L is just trying to point to a location that the file exists. Do you understand? So -L/desktop. Remember, we are trying to what we want is on the desktop / word list that we have on the desktop. Word lists / usernames. Can either be user. Now, if you can check it, I have different things there. So yes, / username. I remember, don't forget to put the extension .txt for the extension. So it means that you're saying for the username, check this particular directory. Why next one we're going to specify for the password -p for the password. Remember /desktop /word list. Also the same directory. But remember they have different folder /password. Remember, it is cap lock sensitive. Now we need to put our .txt. Remember, we are trying to run it on our FTP server, so don't forget that FTP // don't forget the IP address is 10.10.1.11. Okay, sometimes you may need to cross check this just to ensure that you've not done any typographical error. That's going to bounce back. So I've pressed enter. Let that go through. Okay, it says file not found. That means I have probably made a mistake in setting up my directory, which is what I'm going to go through to ensure that that's fixed right away. And most times it can either be due to cap locks, either your cap lock is sensitive or your directory settings. Plus about that. So let's try that again, and we are going to figure that out and we are going to fix it. So CD, let's go to desktop. We know we have it under desktop, so we can just type our command again, just get to edit it. So a location, pick from the word list. That goes to my word list right away. Remember, I'm already in desktop directory, so yes, we don't have to go through any of that. Let me change it also here. I might just need to check to ensure that I have not typed anything wrong. Remember, like we said, if you type anything wrong, it's going to bounce you back. So you do not want to make that mistake. So let me check it to be sure one more time. Our directory is home, attacker, desktop, word list. Oh, I think I did not put home. And I think that's where it bounced us back. So, but mind you, we're already in desktop, so I don't think we need to put home again. So let's just go there with our word list, right? Away. Let's type enter. If it bounces us back this time around, we need to fix it. Okay, so let's just put home like it is showing us there. I'm just going to do that right away. Hydra -L cap lock -L /home/ attacker /desktop /word list /usernames username.txt. Then we specify as well for the password /o /attacker /desktop /word list or word lists, not word lists. I think I made a mistake there. LISTS. Okay, then word lists, then password PSS, then password.txt, then FTP ://10.10.1.11. So okay, this is supposed to go through home, your attacker, we have desktop, we have a word list. This is just the directory up here. This is just the directory here. So attacker, blah 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 blah. So let's run that. Okay, you can see it's already getting to attack. It means it's getting to try every possible login. And oh, okay, that was pretty fast. And as you can see here, we have the login and we have the password. And that's the reason why a few things we spoke about yesterday is that you should ensure that you always change your password. And the reason is because you wouldn't know if your data, if your data has suffered a data breach, you would not know if somebody else, already has access to your password in a data breach, and therefore you can always come and do the same thing with you. Now we're going to try to reconnect and try to log in with the admin with the username and password we just found. So now let's go back to our FTP. We can cancel this, that's not a problem. Okay. Do that again. Come up FTP. .10.1.11. So remember, it's asking us for the name, which we already have here, which is what? Admin. Next thing is going to ask us for the password. And what is the password here? Password is Windows 11. So we are going to use that to log in. And mind you, do not forget we are the attacker. Do you understand? You are the attacker. And Windows 11 here is the victim. Do you understand? So yes, let us continue with that. Next thing, we're trying to put the password. Windows 11. That is cap lock sensitive as well. As you can see, that's a capital letter. Windows. We get to type it, but it's not going to be visible. So don't worry if you cannot, see what I'm typing. Windows 11. Okay, you can see user is logged in, and that is going to be a whole lot. Now, do you have an idea of what the attacker can get to do? It can make a directory. And mind, it's not just logged in there, it's now logged in into the remote system and can actually get to do whatever it is. You can escalate his privilege. You can send out as much files as possible. So, but if you have any question, there's just a whole lot. It's very okay for you to have so many questions. CEH is a whole lot that we are trying to ensure that you just get. I assure you, there's a whole lot. I remember we did not get to tell you how we're able to do the entire scan, do the whole scanning and mission process to be able to get to this point. So now we've been able to get to the FTP. We can decide to make a directory on the victim's computer, which you would always find. But yes, let's go to the victim's computer and let's show you. But before we do that, let's just create a directory first, which I'm going to show you on the victim's computer. So mkdir means make directory. mkdir in your terminal, that's just what that means. Like that's how your terminal gets to communicate. Make directory. What can we name the directory? What do we name it? What do we name the directory? Let me look for some. I think somebody was representing just now, Ebenezer. Let's call it. Sorry, we're using your name, please. So hopefully I spelled it right. Make directory called Ebenezer. You can see it's directory created. Now let's go to Windows. Okay, we're on the Windows now. We're trying to find the directory. Oh, I have like 3 hands up. Please, you ask your questions. We've wasted so much time using almost an hour to do something that should not take us 5-10 minutes. That's very, very unhealthy. But yes, let's us just go through that. I can see your hand. Where you probably ask for your questions during the break time. We do not have time now. So that's why it's very important that you also look into command line. You also take your time to learn. They're like just a whole lot for you to learn. There's just a whole lot for you to learn. Look into command line so that you can familiarize yourself with all these things. Because now I've been typing some prompts which you may not understand. So please look into command line. Look into your PowerShell. There's just a whole lot for you to look into. Okay. See double column. You can see that the name of the folder which we created, Ebenezer already exists. I can go ahead and create another folder and you always find it there. So it means this is like the protocol put in place to transfer files from one end to the other. Now imagine you're in a network and you're able to, find your way into their file transfer protocol. It means that any file that's going, no matter how internet it is, you automatically have access to it. Now let's just go there and let's just assume that we are able to put something inside Ebenezer that is from the Windows itself. Let me see if I can. Let me see what I have here. If I can create like a notepad and see whatever it is. But I'm trying to work with time here, so that's I'm trying to minimize this. But what can I put here? Something very small, as I do not have so much time. What's going to work here easily? These are all like extensions. So let me see if there's anything that I can put here. Okay, let's just create a folder inside Ebenezer. Okay, new folder. Let's just save it as new folder. And that's so we can go back to parents. And okay, we are still on yes, we're able to make the directory cd Ebenezer remote. It has close connection, whatever is in that made it close. The connection is not supposed to close the connection, but it's not connected. So you always reconnect it. That may have close connection for maybe it has a system in place, for timing, but that's not an issue. You can't get to reconnect it back as long as you have the admin. As long as you have username and password, you can reconnect it back and you're good to go anytime you want. So that's about that. And I've seen so many answers. Please, if you have questions, kindly ask them now, as we are 5 minutes away to the break time, and I need to ensure that we'll do 1 or 2 more practical. So please, if you have questions, kindly admit.
Yes, sir. I had a question, sir. Concerning your word list, are you the one that created it or you downloaded it from GitHub?
Yeah, you can find them on GitHub. You can right away go to GitHub and you can search it. You find it there.
But what if the password and username you used is different? It's not on the word list.
Well, that's why there are different methods for you to crack your password, right? So you do not have to depend on. I remember what I said is like a dictionary attack. You get we have the words in the dictionary. Do you understand? So if it's not there, you can get to crack it. You can do it brute force. Remember, we spoke about brute force. That brute force, just mixes different words. You can start with A. For example, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4. For a brute force, we just can pick 1, 4, 3, 2. Do you understand? Just gets to, ensure that it keeps on trying multiple passwords till it gets the right one. That's like in the absence of, when the password is not in the word list, you can always do that. But I show you there are so many data breach online, loads of them, loads and loads of them. And that's the idea. You will not even know. Because obviously no company wants to come and own that he has been breached. Do you understand? No company wants to come out and agree to that. And if such breach happens, you will not even know. But I'll show you so many of them are online. Yeah, next question, please.
Okay, so for the dictionary, is it on GitHub too?
Yes, it's on GitHub. The word list, yes, the word list is on GitHub. You can just search it right away. You find it. Just search word list GitHub. You definitely find it there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. There's another hand up. Kindly meet and talk, please. Any other question? So there are hands up. If you don't have any question, kindly take your hand down. I remember somebody said he had a question in the chat box. Let me quickly check that and see. But please, if you do not have any question, put your hand down. Even if your hand is still up.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm, when you were typing in the command, there was something like hyphen, like L something dash L when you typed it in. So I want to know, what does that mean?
Now for -L, you are just specifying the folder for the username, and for the -P, you're specifying the folder for the password. Remember, you are running, an attack, and you're trying to get the password. So it means we have a folder assigned for username, and there's a folder assigned for password. Just so that the tool knows which folder it's working with. Decided to specify the particular folder it's going to use to run. For the username, pick this. For the password, pick this, and that's just what we did with that specification of L and P.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Any other question, as it is almost your bedtime? Any other question? As if we even go into another module now, we do not have enough time for that. Okay, yes, Samuel Chuku. I'm sorry, just unmute and talk.
All right, so my question is that right now you're in the FTP directory, right?
Yes.
So is it possible to like find your way to other directories of the host environment?
Well, yes, it's very possible, and that's why you have you can always from that point do other scans if you're lucky enough, right? And one thing about this FTP is that files are going on from every computer. Do you understand? Files are going in. For example, you have like 10 computers there, and you have everything are sending files. Now all you need to do, as long as you're on the network, you can always do your scan, find the IP addresses of every other person. If FTP port is open on one, you might be lucky enough to find another port open on the other, and you can keep on checking other protocols that are available for you to exploit. So, but the things you always get on FTP are just for transferring files. So this is what you'll find the most here files, and maybe be lucky enough to find other ports open, and you can exploit them as well.
All right, thanks.
Any other question? It's 4 o'clock already.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to also confirm. When you were typing the command line, you also wrote something like Hydra, but I want to know if there is like an app that is also called Hydra, or it's because you are working with command line, that's why you used Hydra in the command.
Okay, Hydra is a tool that works on command line. There are several tools you can use, but Hydra is just a tool that works on command line. The tool that there are some tool that has a command line interface, and also have like its own software interface. Do you understand? But this particular Hydra is a command line interface, and that's why we use it on command line. Do you understand that?
Yes, yes, I got that. Thank you.
All right, it's your break
Yeah.
time already. Yes, you can ask,
I have
please.
one question.
Go ahead,
So can
please.
you use Nmap to get the password and login, the login details, just like you
Can we
did
use
with
Nmap?
Hydra?
No.
Yes.
Nmap
Can
is
you?
just going to scan for you, scan it, and you can find out ports or just to find out the services that are running on your targets. That's what you use Nmap for.
What of Nmap scripts?
Nmap script, I understand that, but Nmap script will not give the password. Nmap,
For
for
FTP?
Nmap, no, it's not going to give you the password for FTP. No, definitely not.
Because I've tried it before and it
And
worked.
the Nmap give you the password for an FTP server.
Yes, for FTP, yes. What I used was Metasploitable.
Okay, Metasploit. Yeah, Metasploit is meant for Nmap now.
No, I mean Metasploitable, not Nmap, not Metasploit.
Okay. That's fine. That works. But not directly Nmap. You have to, use an external tool to ensure that that went through. But that's fine. At least that shows that, yeah, at least we have others that knows these things so that it doesn't look like we are doing something that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you for that. Any other question?
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, so I was trying to when you made mention of my IP address, so I typed
Yes.
it. But recently I downloaded one VPN. So what I'm seeing is Tokyo, and I don't know if I can spool that IP address if it's exactly mine.
Well, I believe you know what a VPN does, right? So at the end of the day, right, you want to spoof the IP address on the VPN that you're connected to. At the end of the day, the fact that you're already using a VPN means you already have another. It means you already have another IP address. So you don't need to go about spoofing another IP address. That's really not necessary. What matters is just get a very good VPN for whatever it is you need it for, and the IP address is actually protected. Not entirely like it makes you 100% safe, by the way. So don't use VPN and feel like you're 100% safe. At the end of the day, what just does the most times is you just encrypt your traffic, and give you access to what your IP address normally shouldn't have access to. So that's really what it does. Yes.
Okay, so can I work with that IP address I'm getting, because I'm seeing it's not, that is Japan. I'm seeing as a country.
What do you want?
Can I?
It's based on what you want to do with the IP address now.
What you just taught us now, so like to check if my IP address. You said earlier mentioned that we can't just use any IP address.
To do
So
what?
I want to use someone's IP address. So I don't get into trouble. I want to just
Okay, you want
confirm
to
that.
use somebody's IP address. You can just make use of your VPN. Or worst case scenario, you can use an RDP. An RDP is like you're making use of somebody's computer entirely. So yes, that works as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. So please go on your break. I've used 6 minutes out of your break. Apologies on that. Kindly go on your break. I'm gonna be back by 4:10. Okay, welcome back to the class. Our time is fast spent. Let's figure out how to go about that. Okay, hold on while I try to share my screen so we can get going. Just that as well. Okay. Yes, I don't know if you can see my screen yet. Oh, that should be coming up anytime from now. Okay, so I believe we can see my screen now. And I believe this is where we stopped. Yes, we stopped here where we're talking about section hijacking, blah blah blah. Getting to talk about weak ID, session generation algorithm, and secure handling of session ID. I think we spoke about this already. Then let's just proceed. Okay, so like session hijacking process sniff. This is when the attacker gets to place himself between the target and the network, while the monitor part is when the attacker gets to monitor the flow of packets and is able to predict the sequence But I can only predict after he has monitored and he has seen the sequence at which they move. Number 3 is when the attacker just break the connection to the victim's machine, and that's more active. The monitoring part is just like a passive. Why the active one is when the attacker gets to break the connection between and between the network and the victim. The next one there is session ID prediction. When the attacker takes over the session fully, it means it stops the victim from getting anything at all. It breaks it fully and it takes control of every single thing. The next one there is start injecting packets to the target server. You can get inject your packets based on whatever you want to do. Maybe you want the server to give you a better valuable information. So you can get do that and inject a packet. Mind you, you've taken over the communication of the victim. So now when you're communicating with the server still thinks you are the victim. But at this point, you will not be, sending armless packets like the victim would be. Since you're an attacker, you'll be sending a packet that aligns with whatever it is you want to do. So that's about that, about the process. Okay. So session hijacking can be divided into 3, broad phases. Tracking the connection. This is when the attacker gets to, make use of any sniffing tool to get to track the connection and find its way to, hacking or intercepting it. We already spoke about desynchronization earlier. We already spoke about also injecting the attacker's packet as well. So let's go on to types of sniffing. I think I did spoke about that already. Passive and active. Passive when the attacker just sits back and watch. Active when the attacker takes full control of the session. Okay, so let's just go on. Okay, the network level attack is when the attacker steals the TCP section. Remember that we spoke about TCP being the protocol in place that undo the movement of traffic from the user to the network. So at this level, right, is when the attacker gets intercept the packet or gets to just steal the TCP session so that it gets to have access to everything that the victim is supposed to have access to. Why the application level, this is where refers to getting control over the HTTP. Remember we spoke about HTTP, right? Like when the attacker gets to get access to, for example, like your URL, there's always going to be a session ID there. So when the attacker is able to get the user when the attacker is able to get the user section, by obtaining section ID, whenever you access any website and you log in, the moment you log in, there's always going to be a session ID at the end of your URL. So you can check that anytime you access the website and you log in. You always see that kind of thing there. And when the attacker is able to, attack the application and is able to, get the URL, it can continue to log in, claiming to be you or making use of your identity. Okay, spoofing and hijacking. You know what spoofing is? Pretend to be somebody else or making use of somebody's IP address means you're pretending to be the person, while hijacking is when you take full control of an existing section. These are two different things. Spoofing, you pretend to be somebody else, while hijacking, you take over somebody's, active work. So that's all about that for spoofing and hijacking. Let's go down. Blah, blah, blah. So you have different tools that you can use to do your hijacking. You have the OWASP ZAP, hijacking tools. You can just make use of any of these tools. Yeah, they are made or available online. You can search that. You should be able to find that. Okay, I think that's it about that. Next one is we have session hijacking attack. There also has to be countermeasures. Security measures put in place to ensure that section hijacking does not get to work. You have manual method, and that's when you get to make use of your sniffing software. You get to you get to put softwares in place to ensure that you avoid or monitor sniffing. You can use a tool like Nmap to get to monitor it, and you can know if anything of such is going on. Why for the automatic? You can use the IDS or IPS. The IDS, what the IDS does is detect if somebody's sniffing your network. And why for the IPS it prevents it. But I think now what they get to do, they get to use IPS and IDS together, no longer different. So and the reason so that they can be systems in place that can do the two together. before it was just ideas. Then I think after IPS came out, but now definitely know you got on the system to encode both of them into one thing, so that yes, the identification and the prevention, exist and is done properly. Okay, so let's go on. I think that's just for explanation on the manual. Okay, section counter measure, ensure that you're using like a secure shell, ensure that your communications are secured, they are encrypted, and they're just not not going on an unencrypted network. Also implement logout functionality for the user to end section. Yeah, it means that when the user gets to log out, the section automatically ends, not that there's going to be a misconfiguration. I remember some of these things are possible when there are misconfigurations. So, and I assure you, there's always going to be misconfigurations because humans are always doing behind the system. So, one way or the other, misconfigurations is always going to exist. So, ensure that the moment the user gets to log out, the section automatically ends. Also, the next one there is generate section ID after successful login. It means that for every time the user gets to log in, ensure new section ID is given. Know that you're going to be using a previous section ID. And if you're using the previous section ID and the attacker already has access, then you're probably not doing anything. You're just giving the attacker all the good mind. But when you use the new section ID, the particular section ID, the former one, gets disconnected and no longer have access to the server anymore. So yes, other ones are just other countermeasures that you can go through. Or you can, make your personal research. It's very important to make personal research. All these things will be taught in depthly in the real class that is starting tomorrow. So it's just like a summary of the module. Okay. Next one is web application attacks and countermeasures. Yes, web application attack and countermeasures. So this is quite to bread, but yeah, let's go. So, well, the web server is a computer system that stores, process, and deliver web pages to clients via HTTP. Now, what this literally means is that the Facebook that you're accessing, the Google you're accessing, always have a web server, and the web server is what controls everything you are saying. The fact that you're able to type a website and something is displayed to you, it means you are calling something somewhere to be displayed on your screen. So that's just what a web server is. It's the system that stores and processes and delivers web pages to clients via HTTP. Either HTTP, HTTPS, but just a system put in place that ensures that yes, you get anything you request for, any site you're visiting, you get them popping up in your computer or on your end. So web server components. Kindly hold on, please. Okay, so let's continue. Apologies for the break. Now, web server components, you have your documents root, and this is where all the HTML files are stored. So like part of the web server components. You also have your virtual hosting. This is the techniques for hosting multiple domains or websites on same server. It's like in just a system put in place whereby you can have the server, but you can you can host more than one domain on the server so that you can visit two different websites and they will not be jumping into each other. Next one there you have server routes, and what that does is it stores server's configuration, errors, and everything, just to ensure that when you're accessing it goes well. That's what server route configuration is going to be handling. The next one you have there is virtual document tree. It provides storage on different machine or disk after the general disk is filled up. It means that when that particular disk is filled up, the particular disk on the server, when it's filled up, the system has been put in place to ensure that yes, another storage is put in place so that the server gets to function and function properly. The other one you have here is web closely. This one sits in between the web clients and the web server to prevent IP blocking and maintain anonymity. It means that it means that this one is just put in place to ensure that your IP is not blocked, and also gives you the chance to maintain your anonymity, or keeps you anonymous based on how the server is done. Proxy, different kind of proxy exist here, and that's all about that. I think these are just full explanations on them. You can go through them online if you want to go through. Okay, web server security issues. Attacker usually targets of vulnerabilities. Yes, most times the attacker wants to like look into vulnerabilities in software or technologies or configuration. And whenever the attacker find one, an attacker always wants to, exploit them. And the attacker always wants to exploit them at different level. So number one, there you have your security. For the security, that's where you have your IPS and your IPS and your IDS, which we spoke about earlier, to be your intrusive prevention system, and the IDS, which is your intrusive detection system. So the next one that you have there is your network, and that one is with your router and your switch. That's at your network level. Attackers will always want to find any vulnerabilities attached to any of this. Okay, the next one there is the operating system, which can be either your OS, your Linux, just any operating system that's always going to be dependent on what you desire to use as the owner of the server. While the next one there is database. Yes, you have different type of database. Can be Oracle, MySQL. They're all different kind of database that's actually available. And if there's a flaw in any of them, it becomes something that can be taken over or exploited. The next one you have there is your web server. You have your Apache and Microsoft IIS. Yes, they are web servers as well. Third party components. They include like your libraries, your frameworks, your plugins. Yes, so that's for the third party components. Next one you have there, you have your custom web application. They're like what those ones, they are just like they are just applications written by a developer. And what they get to do is they get to or control how a user interacts with the system. Just get to control how you are able to interact with the system put in place. And that's just all that is. And attacker will always want to check, is there any vulnerability in any of this for him to be able to exploit and inject whatever it wants to inject, or do that which he or she has to do. What about that? So let's proceed. So impact of web server attack. A web server attack can cause so many things, and parts of things where we are just like impact, which compromise the user accounts. If an attacker is able to attack a server and they're able to move out the database that contains your username and password, the attacker can compromise the user accounts, can do whatever it is he wants to do. The next one we have there is website defacement. It means just the attacker gets to change how the website looks, change the outlook by injecting whatever it is that he wants to inject into it. The third one that we have there is on secondary attack. Now, what that means is that the attacker gets to make use of the compromised website or server, use it to attack another. That's what that means, secondary attack on the website. The next one we have this root access. He gives the attacker root access to the server, and once an attacker has root access, he can do whatever pleases him to do. So about that, next one is data tampering. It means they can tamper with the data, steal data, and so like just in past, that will reputational damage. And the reason why you never see most companies organizations that suffers data breach ever come out to agree that they suffer this, is just to ensure that the reputation are kept. So about that. So that's like just impact of web servers attack. So like we said earlier, we spoke about why web servers can be compromised. And I think a few of the two things or things to mention up there is either going to be misconfiguration when you're using unaudited software, and either of those things. But like here, like as we have here, the first one is improper file directory permission. That's still due to misconfiguration. On server installation with default but that's still under misconfiguration. Almost everything under misconfiguration. At the end of the day, right, just to ensure that their proper security measures are put in place to ensure that the servers are safe and they are not, what can be easily exploited. Now we spoke about DNS already, so we're going to. I think we should be able to use the knowledge to understand this faster. So attacker compromises the DNS server and changes the DNS settings so that all requests coming towards the target web server are redirected to his or her own malicious server. Like we said earlier, the points whereby the URL can be like google.com. That's what the URL is. Any website that you're typing is the URL. So the points whereby the attacker gets to direct the original URL to the IP address of his server. So instead of going to the original one, it goes to the fake one, and the attacker gets to whatever it is that he wants to do. Now, if you can, there's a picture here. Let's use the picture to explain that a little, just to make you understand it better. This is the attacker here, and this is the DNS server target. Like this is the server that the target is supposed to connect to. So what the attacker wants to do is the attacker wants to attack this, so that whenever the victim is trying to access this, well, even though he types the real website, instead of taking him to the original one, right? What he does is it takes him to the one that the attacker has put in place, and the way he just does that is by hijacking the DNS. Can be either through injecting, but most times what it does is just take advantage of the vulnerability that actually exists, like we have listed above, and can lead to DNS hijacking. Okay. Amplification attack. The attacker takes advantage of the DNS recursive method of the DNS redirection to perform the DNS application. And I think we will to explain that with the image here, just to ensure that it's something that you understand. I'm just going to scroll down, and we're going to use that to explain this. Okay. Okay. So at this point, right, what is still very similar with what the attacker is going to do. Oh, what happened here? Sorry, I don't know what actually happened. Let's just go back to the material itself. So sorry about that. Hold on, please. Okay, that's back. So it's just very similar with whatever it is the attacker is doing with the DNS, right? At the end of the day, what the attacker still gets to do is just still ensure that he also still targets the DNS. What he still gets to do as well is still to ensure that he also targets the DNS. And at this point, what it does is it does like a DNS redirection, whereby instead of it still connecting to a particular primary server, what it does is that instead of, now let me explain it this way: making something that is very small, right, cause a large effect. The attacker can just send a small request. The attacker just sends a very small request to the victim, and what the victim gets to receive, the victim gets to receive a very large response. Now, in that way, what the victim is just trying to do is just overwhelm what the attacker is trying to do is just overwhelm the victim's computer. So now, in this same way, the attacker knows the DNS, right, and knows the IP address that is supposed to go through. The attacker just gets to send over and over, send a very large amount of requests to the DNS, so that the DNS is unable to handle the proper request that will come from the real site itself. It gets it frustrated. Then the attacker can just take over the DNS and can begin to redirect any legitimate traffic to himself. That's about that. Okay, the next one here is directory traversal attack. Traversal attack. Okay. And actually, yes, this is when the attacker gets to use all kind of sequence, something like // sequence, to just access a seated directory. Now, it's not going to work for like an injection. But yes, this is just like the kind of command that the attacker gets to input. It just comes up with like a command that gives him access to the directory. What the SQL injection will do? We'll do something like this. Right, but the way the SQL injection is going to work is to you just input your command into the login form, and it gets to extract the data for you. But for this particular kind of attack, what it does is you just input this kind of of sequence, and what the sequence will get to do is just give you access, into the directory whereby you can find so many files and you can just, access them and do whatever it is you want to do. So these are like just, commands, but there are always ways whereby the owner of the server can put security measures in place that when you find this, you do not respond to it. But when there's misconfiguration and the attacker gets to input stuff like this, it gets to find its way into the root directory, which should not be made available normally. Okay, websites defacement. I think we already spoke about that. That's where the attacker gets to deface the website, makes it look the way it's not supposed to look, just make it look the way that the attacker wants it to look. So that's just website defacement. I think we already spoke about that earlier, so I don't think that should be anything we have to go over again. Okay, what's the next thing? Yeah, web server misconfiguration. I think we already spoke about this already. This is just when in the building process of server, there's just misconfiguration, all the security measures that are supposed to be put in place, are not put in place, and it becomes something that the attacker can actually exploit. And everything you are seeing below are just kind of misconfigurations that once it is available, right, an attacker can always exploit, and that's why they would always tell them to always ensure that you check these things just to be sure that there is no misconfiguration. Because as small as misconfiguration can be, it can become a ground that an attacker can build on, and it can become something that an attacker can actually get to exploit. Understood about that? You can always find that online. Okay, yeah, HTTP splitting attack. Now, this is when what the attacker gets to do at this point is, right, the attacker gets to like split the response that the server is supposed to get. So let me just read what you have here. HTTP response splitting attacks involve adding header response data into the input feed so that the server splits the response in two responses. Now, when you're trying to access the server, right, you're supposed to like just get a simple response. But what the attacker gets to do, right, is the attacker gets to add an header to it so that there are two responses, so that he can actually have one, while you can actually have one, and from there you can from there you'll be able to hijack or find a way to hack the web cover, because now the response is now in two phases. He now gets one, you now have one. Now, mind you, the access that is actually going to be getting is going to be based on whatever it is that you are trying to do. And if you get to see what we have here now, normally, right, it's just supposed to be one response, which is this one input. But because of what the attacker has done, you'll be getting two. You'll be getting your first response here. You'll be getting the second response. It means you are authenticated. The attacker has also authenticated, and from there you can take over or do whatever it is that he wants to do. From there, okay, web server attack, cache method poisoning. Now, web cache poisoning attacks the reliability of an intermediate web cache. I don't know. I don't think I actually explained what a cache is. So I think let me just first tell you what a cache is. So a cache is just like a temporary storage area, right, that keeps all your frequently used information or data. The way you actually access the website over and over and over and over and over. So what the cache just gets to do is, right, the cache just gets to, it's just like where all those information are stored, and that's the reason why you can come back and visit the site and it still knows you, and that's why you can try to log in your Gmail from a new computer entirely, and it says, oh, we do not know you, kindly send an OTP to this particular individual, just to be sure that that is who you are before you can get to login. But if you're trying to log it in on your computer, it allows you, and that's because there's a cache that stores everything. Okay, so for what a web cache poisoning is now, now what an attacker gets to do, attacker just gets to trick the cache into storing a malicious or incorrect response, which is then served to many users. In the sense, what should actually be stored in the cache should be what the user himself has actually done. But now in this case, what the attacker gets to do, the attacker gets to just poison the cache so that the cache will not store what's supposed to store, but instead it now begins to store what the attacker wants to store. So at the end of the day, when you are now visiting the website, you will not be visiting the website based on your own history, right? You'll be visiting the website based on the cache or based on the history that the attacker has actually put in place. And that's what that web cache poisoning attack is. Okay. Web cache, web server attack, making use of SSH brute force. I think we already spoke about brute force earlier. I think somebody was even saying that earlier in the chat. I think when he was getting to explain the Hydra, blah blah blah. For SSH means secure shell, right? It's just a protocol used to access remote servers. I think I mentioned that earlier. So what the attacker gets to do in this point is just gets to try many username and password combination. That's just for SSH attack. So what you just get to try to do on server, you try to gain access by keep on trying many username and password until you're able to find the correct one, which you may be lucky enough to. I may not be lucky enough to find, but that's just that. Attacker just keeps trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. Why for password cracking? We spoke about that yesterday. I don't know. I think so. Yes, whereby attackers try to exploit weakness to hack a well-chosen password. What the attacker just gets to want to do is, oh, how can I get the password? Either by cracking it or by intercepting the password. So you can get them in plain text, or you can do that, yes, even though they were hashed, it's able to, decrypt it and make sure it's what they can actually get to use. And the most common password I've found, the most common password found, a password rules, yeah, it means that like the most common one found. It means you can always find this kind of a password, but most times you only find this kind of password if there is no misconfiguration. And the one for pet names, yeah, I think you will not really call that misconfiguration at the end of the day for pet names, because to a point they can be preference. But yes, to you we can be the preference, but to an attacker just gets to so they've gathered information about who you are. There's the possibility that yes, they can predict or guess that the password might be your pet name, and it can become something that the attacker can get to look out for, and the attacker might be able to crack your password, and therefore you'll be able to just browse or access the website claiming to be you. Okay, for the password cracking, that's what we did earlier with FTP. So what we did was to be able to crack the password of an FTP server. Yes, we use our Hydra route, and we're able to specify the locations of our word list, and we're able to do that. I mind we did not have the password before, but we're able to crack it, and we're able to get that out. And that's that. Okay, I think we spoke about that to actually exist. Okay, this is one of the two here. This is the Hydra. Let's check down if the other two are there. I don't think the other two, but yeah, the other two. So I think was it yesterday someone was getting to talk about this server side request forgery attack, and also I think was comparing it to cross-site scripting. Yeah, I think somebody was talking about that yesterday. Okay, that's fine. Now, attacker exploits SSRF vulnerabilities in a public web server to send crafted requests to the internal or backend server. Now, what that means is just that the attacker gets to try to trick a server into making a request on their behalf. So now the server does not know, but the attacker just try to tell server, yo, can you just make a request on my behalf? And now the reason why these things can always be successful, like we said, is always going to be right when there is always going to be when there's always misconfiguration. And you know why this can actually be dangerous is because servers usually trust themselves, right? Imagine you have like four servers, and you're able to tell one of them to make a request for you. It's always going to work. Why? Because they trust each other. Do you understand? So that's always going to work. And I think if you look at the picture that we have here, you can see that the attacker is sending a request to a server, and for it to communicate with the internal server. And the reason why this is always going to work is because the two server that exist here, right, they get to interact with each other several times. So it means that it's not actually going to check it to know, yeah, is this a legit one or not? But what the attacker would have done first would have been to manipulate this, and in that way, the attacker gets to get access to anything that's available on the internal database. I can extract any information that he finds worthy or whatever it is to or extract. Okay, let's go down. Okay, so I just web server attack to which one of them is Metasploit. This you'd always find this on your terminal. Metasploit, very effective tool. Okay, Metasploit. Okay, so you just get to find your countermeasures So apply security ACL and block remote registry and administration. Most of all these ones are just due to misconfiguration. A security SAM. I think we spoke about SAM. If anybody can still remember, database or where your password is stored on your window is called your SAM. And so what this means is just ensure that you have like a standalone server for SAM. It means where you have your passwords, where they're actually stored. Ensure that you have them separately. And the reason is so that if an attacker is even able to, do a breach, if an attacker is able to, attack, you still have so many information that he would not have access to, which number one of them is the password and because the password is like the key thing, and when the attacker has access to the password, he can do whatever it is that he wishes to do. So they always tell you that to ensure that yes, there's always a different, server for that. And then is remove all unnecessary files sharing, including default administration shares. Yes, ensure that you do not have, unnecessary file sharing put in place. And ensure that the security related settings are configured appropriately. Yes, just ensure that they are proper configuration in place, and that way you actually avoid so many things. And every other thing is just are just or configuration methods that can easily be avoided if the right configuration measures are put in place. So web server security tools, I like to ensure things are put in place. You have your Fortify, which you can check online. You find them, you may not find them, but well, good luck. So about that. Okay. So introduction to web application. Initially, we spoke about web server. Now we're talking about the web application. And mind you, the web application is the interface you communicate with, while the web server is the backend that the web application that you are accessing communicates with. Now, okay, web application provides an interface between the end users and web server through a set of web pages that are generated here. It means that it's just what it gets to is just the guy that communicates in between you and the server. So that's web application. Now that's about that. Okay, how the web application works. Okay, yeah. So you have the web page on your end that you get to input your password, and then you're able to you connect it to the internet. It's going to be a firewall that checks you to be sure is this person real. Once they get into lie, then you get access to the web server. From there, it takes you into the web server application to the point whereby it verifies your username and password, and it sends you back, the page that you're requesting for. So at the end of the day, you just type your username and password, and you don't know that there are so many things that have gone behind the scene. And that's the reason why it's very important that you put proper security measures in place, because at any point here, there has a level of misconfiguration, becomes something that the attacker can actually get to, exploit. So let's continue. Okay. Okay, let's just explain the web application architecture of how it looks from the outer parts and the way they get to function. Okay, let us continue. Oh, apologies, I don't look at the screen. Okay, just explanations about the architecture. Types of web service. We have the SOAP, not really like SOAP, by the way. It's SOAP web service, and we have our RESTful web service. Okay, for SOAP, it is based on the XML format, and it's used to transfer your data between a service provider and requester. And what that means is just that it's actually put in place, while you are the requester, right? And the provider is the server. And what SOAP means is simple object access protocol. It's actually very strict, and and it's actually secured. And what it does is, when the client gets to send a XML SOAP request, and the provider puts in place just to ensure that the request that you're making is able to, is available, and is capable of being sent to whoever it is that is actually making a request for it. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is RESTful. Okay, for the RESTful stands for representational state transfer. That's like the rest at the point there. It's not just, it's a capital letter, so you can tell that it is actually, abbreviated. Now, for the RESTful, right, it allows two systems to communicate over web, making use of HTTP. The way a system A and system B can communicate, making use of HTTP, the system put in place to ensure that is a possibility is the RESTful web service. That's the put in place to ensure that. I think we already spoke about this earlier. We spoke about the security, spoke about the IPS and that. I don't think we're going to be going back to that anymore. So we're going to be discussing application threats and hold on, please. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, OWASP's top 10 application security risks that are available for web application. Number one is injection. It means just inject a malicious script. Broken authentication. It means when the authentication is not properly done and it gets broken. The third one is sensitive data exposure. What that means is, let's say that sensitive informations like the way it's configured, internally is actually exposed on internet. It becomes something that, yes, an attacker can actually get to find and can take over. Next one, yes, XML internal entity. Now, what that means is the XML is extensible markup language, and that one is actually used to store and transport your data from the server end to the web application end. The next one is broken access country. It means when the access country is not done well and it's actually broken. I don't want, yes, security misconfiguration. Yes, when the security put in place is not configured well, cross-site scripting is a vulnerability. Sorry, so this vulnerability is actually a form of injection that can be done. Insecure deserialization, making use of components with no vulnerabilities here. So like what that means is just let's say you are the technologies your web applications are running on, either they have a vulnerability on them and you do not handle them well, and in making use of them, therefore you automatically making whatever it is you are using vulnerable as well to any type of attack. Okay, so the next one we're going to be, so let's go down. So injection flaws are web application vulnerability that allows untrusted data to be interpreted and executed as part of a command or query. Now this one is just a flaw whereby, yes, it's just a flaw that allows the attacker can just come up and impute some kind of prompt, and the server gets to accept it and allows the attacker do whatever it is that he wants to do. But this is just going to be a vulnerability, and that's when it's not properly done. Now, number one is you have the SQL injection. It involves injection of malicious SQL queries into the user input form. The user input form, like your login and password. Once you have a web application that's vulnerable to SQL injection, the attacker can just come, impute his code or whatever it is that he wants to impute, and he gives them access. Most times he gives them an administrative access. Now the other one is command injection. It involves injection of malicious code through web application, very similar with SQL injection. The other one there is LDAP injection. It involves the injection of malicious LDAP statement. LDAP means lightweight direct access protocol. Yeah, and that's for LDAP. Okay. Broken authentication. I think that was up there. Attackers just exploit vulnerabilities in authentication. Yes, that's when the authentication is not done properly. It becomes what the attacker can actually exploit. I can do whatever it is that he wants with that. The other parts are just for the expressions on them. So I think this was actually said earlier. Sensitive data exposure because when it feels like insecure cryptography, storage and information leakage. Yeah, this is just when there are actually files online that should not be online, or let's say they're like, oh, admin pages are just made available for everybody to see, and there's no, proper security in place to ensure that those things are not available for the public, cannot become something that can actually, be taken over, and the attacker can actually get, attack them. Open access control, when attacker identifies a flaw related to access control and bypass authentication, yes. And this is when, like I think we said that earlier, when there is no, proper access control put in place, and the attacker can just come there and say that, oh, there's a vulnerability here, you can bypass the authentication. Let's see, you will get an OTP, and because of the error in that, the attacker can just get to bypass it. At the end of the day, most of all these things are just possible when there are vulnerabilities, and I assure you there are more vulnerabilities out there that you actually expect. But yeah, I think that's it about that. I think after this one, we might be doing a practical. So, security misconfiguration. Yes, it's the first web application vulnerability where input from client is not validated before being processed by the web application and backend server. Yes, and that's self-explanatory, and that's when the inputs, there's like no security measure put in place to validate any inputs. You may just input whatever it is, then automatically logs you in, and bam, and you're good to go. So once something like that actually exists, it becomes what the attacker likes and what the attacker wants to take advantage of and use to do whatever it is that he wants to do. Okay. Let's just go down. Cross-site scripting. I think we spoke about that already. Okay, attack exploits vulnerabilities in dynamically generated web pages, enabling malicious attacker to inject client-side script into web page viewed by other users. Now, okay, let me explain this in the way we're going to understand. Now, what's the application or whatever it is that you are seeing from your end, right? It's always going to be an output of so many code that has been put in place, right? So now for the XSS set, now XSS is always, a web security vulnerabilities, and this one always gets to happen when the application accepts user inputs and send it to other users without a proper validation. That's when that gets to happen. So what the attacker gets to do in most cases is it just gets to inject malicious scripts into the web page viewed by others. So now he has access to the website. I know that he has access to the server, and he has gotten to check that, oh, this particular website is vulnerable to excess cross-site scripting. So what the attacker will get to do is he's just going to inject a malicious script into the website itself, so that anybody that gets to access it, everything that you are getting to send will not be will not be going to the web server directly, but instead it's going to be coming to the attacker. Now, this is not going to be a vulnerability based on from your end. It's a vulnerability that came from the end of from the end of those that actually designed the web application. And once the attacker gets to find it, he gets to exploit it. And obviously, you will not even know that you will not know that something is ongoing. By the end of the day, the attacker will be able to steal your data. Why? Because you are imputing your login credentials on a site that is vulnerable to XSS. And what happens? You lose all your information, and the attacker has access to it, which is not something that you can't control. That is really not from your end. That has to be controlled by the end, of those that the website belongs to and the server, belongs to. And I said about that, and I think it is 5 already. So can you go on your break? And we're going to resume next 9 minutes. Oh, okay. Welcome back to the class. We probably would actually have to run through the last one more, module or something, so that we have enough time to do practical, and we are going to call it a day. So time is 5:11. Let's figure out how we can go through, each part of it within the many time that we have. So yes, I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen and try to locate where we were so that we can continue. And we don't know how to do that. Oh, I think that's where we are actually at. Not like that's not where we're at. Okay, I think we already spoke about this place. Then we are the insecure deserialization. Now, let me explain what's serialization this question is and what this this question is now. This question is the point whereby the system put in place gets to convert your data into readable document or format that is realization. Why this realization is a process or the system put in place whereby it converts back from text to the format that the computer can work with. Now the insecure this acquisition is when there's no security measure put in place to get to confirm if or what it is converting is actually a legit one or not. And the point where that system is not put in place, the attacker can just easily insert a malicious code. And since there is no system put in place to actually confirm whether it is legit or not, it gets to work with it, it processes it, and therefore it becomes something that the attacker can take advantage of and can get to exploit. Now the next one that we have there is using components with known vulnerability. I think we already spoke about that. For example, you're making use of softwares that vulnerabilities already exist. In that way, it becomes a bonus for the attacker. And since vulnerability already exists, you can find out exploits on exploits database. If you get to search it out, you can see it on Google. You can type web applications, you'll see vulnerabilities with different web applications. So just imagine you're on a website and then you found the technology, you checked the technologies that they use. And if the technologies that they use, is an outdated one, you can, check it, you find the vulnerability and you'll be able to exploit it since there's already known vulnerability. And that's what attackers get to do. So things are just like, things that are up there already. So we don't really have to go through them. Insufficient login and money insufficient login and money. That's when there's no system put in place, to ensure that they keep on checking the logs or keep monitoring the logs to know if something is going on or not. And if there's no system put in place, then at the end of the day, it becomes something. Yeah, if when an attacker is working, you would not actually know why, because there's no system put in place to monitor the logs and know when things are wrong or when things are not wrong. So nothing about that. So I just like web application attack tools. Bob Suit here. I think this Bob is a very good guy. I think we're going to be doing a practical whereby we are going to be doing a website attack, and we are going to be using our tool to exploit it and to get the password. Okay, that's about that. Let's just go down. You can see Bob Suit online. Yeah, you see that you can download that online, so that's really nothing you should bother about. So you have your web application countermeasures, everything that has to be put in place to ensure that yes, it's not vulnerable to all kind of attacks that you are seeing there. You can, for the SQL injection attack, just limit the length of user input. Yes, now because that's because SQL commands, they are always a little long. So once you limit the length, or in some cases, when you're trying to sign in, some websites that requires you to input your Gmail, you must have seen cases whereby when you try to go and you do not spell Gmail correctly, it gives you error. Now you just think that's just the way the website is, but those things are security measures put in place just to prevent stuffs like SQL injection and all that. Command line injections flow, perform input validation, yes, ensure that they are the systems put in place that can validate any input to be sure that if things coming into it are correct or wrong. The next one there is LDAP injection attack. Perform type, pattern, and domain value validation on all inputs. Yes, ensure that you do a very, very detailed validation on all inputs that are coming into the domain. So at the end of the day, you do not have something that should not come in, because every vulnerability now becomes something that the attacker can actually get to take advantage of it. Below them are still other countermeasures that you can see and can be put in place just to ensure that it does not become what an attacker can actually get to exploit. And this is why we're going to fast so that we can do practical and you can still go by 6 o'clock. Now, I think so also countermeasures. I think we spoke about this insecure, whatever it is. You just come on, yeah, we spoke about it already, so I don't think we need to go back to them anymore. Okay, these are just other methods, other things that can be put in place. We already spoke about most of them. Okay, like web application security testing tools. Yes, are just tools that can be put in place to ensure that you test your web application to get to know if there are any vulnerabilities on it, so that it can be fixed before it becomes something that can be exploited by an attacker. And that's what all these tools are for. So you have SQL injection. Yeah, this is also a kind of attack on web application. And this is actually a very common attack, but most times, as you know, it will only exploit when there is a flaw on the target network. So SQL injection is a technique used to take advantage of an unsanitized input vulnerabilities to pass SQL command. So as you can see, what it gets to take advantage of is a vulnerability, and the vulnerability is the one whereby it doesn't get to check inputs that are coming in. It means you input any kind of command, it gets to accept it, and if such security measures are not put in place, an attacker can just come input an SQL command, and therefore he has access into the backend. He has access into the database. He can get to extract it and do whatever it is that he wants to do with the SQL injection. Okay, the advent of SQL injection, but let's get there. So why bother about SQL injection? The reason why you need to be concerned about SQL injection is because of all these things that can actually happen. It can actually bypass authentication. As you know, you're not working with somebody's username or password. All you're working is just imputing your malicious codes and whatever it lets you in authentication, bypass authorization, information disclosure. The information disclosure is is when, if you get to impute it and it finds its way into database, it can give the attacker all database and information you have in database and information of your users, which we believe should be kept private. So yeah, it gets disclosed information, compromised data integrity. Yes, there is the policy put in place for data integrity, and as long as data is actually made available, information are disclosed, there's no longer integrity. And that's all about that. Okay, so let's just go down. SQL injection, server-side technology. Server-side technology, a powerful server-side technologies like ASP.NET database servers allow developers to create the dynamic blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So these are just technologies put in place in the server side. So by the end of the day, right, there's always going to be attackers will always come to look. Oh, okay. How can we exploit this technology that has been put in place? So as long as you have a vulnerability that SQL can work with, then no matter technology put in place, it gets to work with it and gets to extract the database. So it's about that. Types of SQL injection: we have blind SQL injection, we have time delay SQL injection, we have several, everything are just different types of SQL injection. Let's see if we can explain them one after the other. For the inbound SQL injection, attacker just sees results directly in the web page response. So what the attacker gets to do is just insert his SQL command, and what he gets is the web page gives a response right away, just on the website like that. Once it's able to input his command, or once able to inject it, you get a response and you see it on your screen. Now for the blind slash inferior SQL injection, there is no direct data response. The attacker always has to guess, and when it's getting to guess, what it does, it gets to begin to watch the behavior. Now in some cases, you may not, you can find a delay, all right, or you can just find the website not responding in the normal way it's supposed to respond. So when it responds in a particular kind of way, the attacker can actually get to know that, oh, this particular thing is actually vulnerable to SQL injection, and that one there is out of band SQL injection. When the attacker gets to do, or gets to inject an out of band SQL injection, data is actually sent somewhere else, not through the web response. It means that when the attacker does this kind of a thing, instead of you having either a display right away in the screen which contains the database, or the web application acting in a particular way that the attacker can actually get identified, this one does not go, it's not going to work that way. Instead, it gets to send out the data in somewhere else that the attacker has put in place. So that's for the inbound, that's for the blind, that's for the outbound. And for that blind, few things you can only see like a time delay. Now in the case whereby you try to do that kind of SQL injection, sometimes let's say that you have a very good network. I think if you do that with some of these our local network, it can be really confusing. Yes, and when you have a very good network, you can get to calculate the time frame that the page gets to load. Now, when you get to input this kind of injection, you can see I think when you input a blind, I think after it loads, it should show within a particular period of time. Now, most times, if you exceed that time, there's possibility that yes, that particular guy is vulnerable to SQL injection, and it becomes what the attacker can get to exploit. Now, I think under inbound we have error-based SQL injection. We have your union SQL injection, but let's just explain them one after the other and let's run with them. Now, for the error-based SQL injection, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker just gets to force database to throw error, right? And what the error message gets to do is it gets to leak useful informations. Now, in the normal side, right, the attacker gets to know, he knows what he's doing. So while he imputes it, even it is looking like error, yes, but the attacker gets to know that, oh, what the error is going to be, given out is going to be valuable informations. But it's just important that the attacker will always make his research, right, to have an idea of the kind of SQL injection that a web application is vulnerable to. Now, the reason why there are different types is because every web application, not every sharp, but those that are vulnerable to SQL injection, they always have the particular type that they are vulnerable to. Now, the next one is a union or SQL injection. Now, it's actually way famous. So what the attacker get to do is the attacker get to use a union operator to append their own select query. Now, what the attacker gets to do is the attacker tries to make a selection on inside of the database. Now, he always use his command always come with the word union. So what he gets to do is try to make a selection in database so that he can give him information from database. Now you can actually give an example like, oh, select user ID, select a username, select a price. So he has a direction towards the kind of information that they want to get from the data base or from the server that actually intends to do. So I think another one there's what's out of band. I think there's about out of band already. Out of band. So I think there's piggybacked query. Now the way this one gets to work, this one is more of a technique, right? That separates type. It means injecting multiple statements. Now what the attacker gets to do is the attacker just gets to input different kind of everything, so that at the end of the day, right, the database is unable to process most of them, and therefore just gives a report that always almost let's say just tallies whatever it is that the attacker wants to do. So it's just different types of SQL injection. Everything on that are just subset of it. The number one here is the blind. We also have the union, the inbound, and the outbound. Most of them others are just subset of other types of SQL injection, which can be used for whatever it is that the attacker wants to do. Okay. Let's go down. I think we already spoke about all this inbound already. We already spoke about inbound SQL injection, so I don't think we're going to be going back to that again. Okay, these are how, yes, so I'm trying to show you how these things look, the SQL injection, so that when you're imputing them, you know what you are imputing into them. For example, I'm trying to figure out that union base. So this is like an SQL injection that you can impute in a login form. For example, you can open your login page. For example, facebook.com. I'm not asking you to chat on facebook.com, by the way. You can open your login page like facebook.com, and you get to you get to input this in the username page and you log in. Now, if it is vulnerable to SQL injection, you get to get a result. But just so you need to know the type of SQL injection that is vulnerable to before you can do it. So you can see there are different type of SQL injection in place. There are different types of SQL injection. That's just because there's always different kind of vulnerabilities available on whatever it is that you are trying to target. Okay, so it's just explanation on the error-based SQL injection. That's when we spoke about that already, so I don't think we need to say anything about that again. Okay, time is 5:28. This is blind SQL injection. We already spoke about that already, so I'm not going to be going back to all those things. This is the blind SQL injection. We're not doing that anymore. We're not going to be talking about that. blind SQL injection every query is like this is like a very heavy query. So now you see this one now is you're giving it a direction on what to do. So you're asking it to make a selection from product where the ID is one. So you see this one is giving a direction to whatever it is that you want it to do. So, but this one you must have done, serious level of reconnaissance. Serious level of information gathering and scanning to be able to know, the available things that your targets have. You must know that your target has, all these things in place before you begin to make a request or before you begin to make that kind of, SQL injection. Okay, SQL injection tools. You have your Python SQL map. Yeah, this is always on because this is on your Parrot terminal. It's supposed to be on your Kali, but if it's not, you can get to install that. So that's really not the problem. Wherever it is that the particular one is on. Okay, model flow. I think you just get to also look at the countermeasures, the security measures put in place. Make no assumption about the size, type. So what this one gets to mean is just don't make assumption about size. Always ensure that you put security measures in place to always contain size. Test the size and the type of input and enforce appropriate limits to prevent buffer overflow. Yes, ensure that those there's always security measures to take care of that. Test the content of strings variable and accept only expected values. E.g., if your users gets to sign in with Gmail, ensure that you only allow symbol of art. But we understand that in the password phase, right, people can put whatever it is. But that's why in most cases the SQL injection is always imputed in the username part or the email part, not really like in the password part. But at the end of the day, I just ensure that you set a rule down so that it does not accept all kind of strings. But for reject entries that contains binary, and that's just because SQL injections need to contain one of all these things. And as they meant, you can put the security measure in place that whenever you see anything that looks like this, reject them and don't let them in. Therefore, you can prevent SQL injections or like countermeasures that are put in place. And yeah, it's been very effective over the years. So SQL injection detection tools, yeah, it means you just get to put all this in place to know if there's an SQL injection ongoing. Because obviously you wouldn't know, but so like tools that you can put in place to ensure that you monitor that Python 3. That's dgss.py. It's the SQL injection tool that you can use to get to monitor that. I think that's the end of that module. So I think what we are going to be doing now is to go and do a practical with our BAP suit. So we're just going to be trying to intercept, or let's say we're trying to like hack a web application, and let's go on that. There's going to be a vulnerability that we're going to be exploiting. So yes. Okay, I think I don't. Oh, sorry, please. I think I've not. Let me switch over the sharing of screen from the material to the lab, so that you can see how that is done, or you can see what an attacker would easily do. So hold on while I switch to my terminal or to my lab. Hold on, let me stop sharing. Okay. So I'm trying to sign in my Windows 2022. We are still going to be simulating the attacker and the victim. So it's just important that you know that. So let that come up. So this parent guy is the attacker, and we are going to have a web server hosted on our server on our Windows 2022. So we're going to have a web server there. So it's just going to look like you're trying to access the website on the web server. But yeah, just hold on, let that come up, and we can work from there. That is taking its time to load. That's taking so much time, but let's just wait. I don't know why this is doing this, but let's just wait. It's going to come up shortly. Okay, I don't know why this is taking so long, but let it come up. Well, while it does that, we can just go to our parrots. We can open our bob suits. But yes, let's just keep it. Let's get that things are going. But let's just wait for it to come up, so that we do things the way it's supposed to be done. It's taking too long, and I don't think we have so much time for that. But anyways, a few things we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening bob suits on our parrot. So, but we still need that to come back up before we go and run bob suits. But yes, we're going to be opening bob suits. So while that one is coming up, let's just go ahead and find our bob suit. For those of you that have your parrot with you, just follow through. You click on the application, click on pen. I think you click on web application analysis. You click on web application, and click on your bob suit. I think if you remember, you saw this tool in the material. This can be used for web application, hacking and all that. So yes, let's check if this guy's up yet. Okay, it's up. So let's start. Let's get it working. So I'm going to try to log into it. Okay, so I'm going to be starting my WAMP server. It's just going to be like an assumption, like, yeah, there is a server, somewhere, and we're going to be trying to access the website on Parrots. Do you understand? So yeah, this is the website. I'm going to start the server. Let this come up fully before I go ahead and start the server. It's still loading. I'm trying not to push so much load on it so it doesn't go all draggy. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this. Don't worry about that. So this is how I'm trying to start here. I've double clicked it to make it start. So I don't think that is up yet, but let's wait till we say that. Okay, it's not up yet. Okay, you say it is here, but it has not gotten to start. So I'm going to try to start it. So start all service. It should turn green. This guy should turn green once it starts. I think it's about to start. Okay, that's starting. Once it starts, okay, now that's green. That's already going to start. So we can access, the website and our web server on our terminal. Remember, we turned this on earlier, yes, but we would not do anything on it. So let's ensure that we'll eventually work on the police, ensure that everything is active first before we go ahead. Okay, so now let's go to our parrots and let's, get to verify that the website that we opened is accessible from this particular end. So I'm trying to turn on my Firefox browser. Starting that's coming up, that's gonna come up very soon. Oh, I don't know why that's taking so long. But let's just hold on for a few. I think that should come up. It's supposed to be up already, but yeah, whatever reason it is, that's supposed to come up already. Okay, that's up already. Amazing. It's also starting a second section, but that's not about that. Let's just work. So the server that we turned on Windows 2022. So we're just going to be assuming that the website to access it is it's going to be a website, right? So every server has a website. So this is the website attached to that server that we are accessing. Double column / 10.10.1.22. So obviously I would have typed everything, but so it's just going to be like we're trying to raise my mouse. So okay, there's a website here. Like I would have typed it earlier, but I already typed it before. So yeah, let's just type that so that can come up. You can see it here. So this is like we're accessing the login page we're trying to, access the login page. It means like you go to your Facebook, you click on your login page and blah, blah, blah. So instead of going through the entire stress, let it just come up. That's going to load. It's just dragging you to whatever it is that's making it draggy. Okay. Right, this is going to come up. So okay. So this is the login page for the username and the password. Now remember, what an attacker wants to do is the attacker wants to, take advantage of the vulnerability on the web application. So now you can see that even though the server was started on Windows 2022, but we're accessing it on your pirate. So it's just like saying this Windows 2022 is like Facebook, right? While this pirate is like a user. Do you understand? So we have been able to access the website. So we are going to be, doing an attack, making use of a tool called your Bob suit, which we already got to start earlier. Okay, and we've already got to start that. So we are going to be configuring, a proxy for us to intercept, the traffic, which is something that attacker would always do. But since this is a class where we're just to, show it in a way that you will understand, as much as possible. You can do your other research and all that. So now we're going to be, be putting a proxy that directs us to Bob suits. So the same way an attacker would have, once he has compromised your computer, would have, put everything in place that gets to redirect you from your own computer and get to redirect you to his own computer so that he can, mess around with the traffic that is going in and coming out. So I had this in place already before, which I would have done before, but yeah. So if this is when I'm in place, you would have just put the HTTP. Now for normally, right, to access the internet is just your port 8080, that's the internet on, which is normal. While this one is what takes you to the pop suit itself. That's the one that attacker is going to put, so that even though you visit the internet, you are still one way or the other directed to his place. So that's what that does. So you just press OK, you put that in place. Okay, so the attacker next thing he wants to do is to go back to his Bob suit and run it up to ensure that he's able to do everything he wants to do. So let's go to next. The next thing you do is you start your Bob suit. Let that come up. I remember that we already put a proxy in the Firefox. So hence any communication is going to be coming through the Bob suits before it even gets to the web server itself. So just imagine that you have an attack on your network. You don't have an idea of how much you can do. You can get to intercept your traffic. And amazingly, right, when you intercept it, you would think it's network. You would think, oh, it's probably network. Let me just wait for a few. After a while, it's going to go through. But the real sense, it's not network. It's somebody working on you instead. So let that come up. I don't know why that's taking so long, which normally doesn't take so long, but yes. I think it's trying to drag time.
I have a question.
Don't worry. As soon as this opens, we can get it done under like 3, 4, 5 minutes. So it's not something that takes much time. Let that come up. Okay, so that is up. So we're going to, remember, we're using the proxy just like what attacker would have done. So click on your proxy. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to be intercepting the traffic. So we turn our interceptor on. We turn it on. Okay, it's actually off this way. So let me turn it back on. So it's actually on this way now. So what you get to do is now we can now go back to the browser. Remember, I said that you think it is probably you think it's network now, right? You know that something else is going behind the scene. Remember that when we tried to visit this site, it went through easily. So now we're just going to put a random credential. What can we say? Let's just say let's call it Cype, and let's call the password CEH 2026. So you click on your login. Amazingly, you will see that it's just going to keep on logging. You can see that it's just logging, and you can see that our Bob suit is already getting to work. So now to you would think it's probably the network. Meanwhile, there's an attacker already at the behind the scene intercepting all the communication that is going to be going between your web application and the server itself. So you can see it's ongoing, but at the back end, what's actually happening? Let me minimize this for you. You can see that the attackers, began to capture everything because what he did was, intercept it. So just imagine that what we put in is a correct login credentials. Can you see it here? We have the site that we imputed as the username, and we have the C2026 as the password. So just imagine what an AI can do with that. So, but now let's not even stop there. Let's also get to assume that, oh, at the end of the day, right, the password was incorrect, which in most cases will not be incorrect. But yes, you know what? Let's just give you benefit of doubt. So now the attacker can now get to look. Okay, let him now let him now send it to intruder. So what we are going to be trying to do is we're also going to be trying, to also run like a brute force attack to be able to get the password. So now for the forwarded it to the intruder, then we can just migrate to our intruder tab on the Bob suits. So what we want to do here now is we want to do a brute force attack, but we are going to be, so that we can get the correct password. And if you can say that what we inputted there was just Saip and whatever it is, and it got to the attacker. But now let's assume that that's incorrect. Just to give you an idea of how far an attacker can go to ensure that it gets your credential. So the next thing you can do, now that it's here, is going to add a symbol to make it, be able to pass for a payload. It means we're just, running attack on it. So you can add that like $, $, but you can see my screen. So you see we added it before the username that we got, also to the password. You see that it means the moments we added it here, we saw it come up here in the payload front. So it means that yes, we can now get to do that. So let's also add to this username and password. It means you are specifying on the area at which you want your payload to run on. So we know that I want our payload to run towards the username and the password. So next time we are going to go on to do is we're going to select the type of payload, whatever attack we want to do. We're going to be selecting cluster bomb. Then we're going to set our position, put it on 2. Then okay, you can leave down your payload list can be on simple list, that is fine. Then you go ahead to input your word list which you've gotten from anywhere. At the end of the day, right, I believe so that you can always create a word list based on your target. You can make a search on your target and you can create a word list based on who is. So since there are 2 payload you need to input, which is that of the username and that of the password. So you need to pick them one after the other. And it's important that you don't pick them together. And the reason is because if you pick them together, remember that we selected the username differently, we selected the password differently. Now, if you do not, pick them differently, there is the possibility that the text file you will be using for the username is what you'll be using for the password, and that's going to be an issue. So just so that you don't mix that up, you select them differently. It means select the one for the username first, select the one for the password first. So I've already selected the first one. Then let me now go ahead to select the one for the password. We're going to click on open, and that is going to load. Okay, you can see that has actually gotten to load already. Then we can proceed to start our attack. But you get to see that's going to take a little bit of time, but that's going to go through. So let's go ahead and start our attack. Start attack. Payload set payload position is actually empty, and it should not be empty because I selected 2. So that's not supposed to be empty. Position is 2, it's not supposed to be empty. I mean, because I did not directly select it, but that's fine. Let me select it again. So I've done that again. So let's start our attack. So that's supposed to work. Payload position 1, payload position 1, set payload is empty. Position 1 is not empty. Position 1 is not empty. Let me look into that. Position 1 is not empty.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I was asking, these tools, can we install them on our normal Windows?
I do not get that.
These tools, the tools that like the Bob Suite and Nmap, can we install them on our normal Windows, like normal Windows 11?
Yeah, you can. Yes. You can actually install your Nmap on your Windows, but I can't exactly see on both. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah, I think I've seen that before. Yes, you can. You can install it on your Windows. Yeah, that's going to work.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's just continue. For whatever reason, that is not working, but that's fine. I'm just going to pull that again. Okay. So simple test. Let's get to load. Load our username. Open. Load our password. Also open. Okay. So that's for payload 1. You remember there is a payload on this and there's a payload on this. So that's for the payload 1. And let's go to payload 2. Payload 2. By the end of the right, let me just put for the username so that we do not have, it does not take so much time. So let's put username for the payload 1. And that's going to be, responding to the username part. Why for payload 2? I think we already put it earlier, but let me just clear it. Let's load and let's just put the password part alone there for that, because the more it is, the more time it gets to take. So for this set for each of them, we've set for payload 1, which is this. We set for payload 2, which is for the password. And we can go ahead and start our attack. That may take a little bit of time. I think I've clicked that already. Start attack. Okay, I've done that. Let that just load. Blah 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 blah. This fine, doesn't matter. So okay, is here. So you can see this is ongoing. It's getting to check and running a brute force. Blah 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 blah. It's a good one. That doesn't matter. Let it just keep doing its work. So you can see we are doing a brute force trying to get the correct password. And amazingly, right, during the time that all this is going to be going, it's not going to log in. Why? Because we already intercepted the traffic between this and the server. So just imagine, what would you think is wrong? The network. What are you going to be doing? You'll be waiting. Yes, and the reason now we are not actually saying now what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that every time it's not going fast and you're being hacked. No. So you know the country you're in, right? And you know how amazing the network can be. So let's just wait and let that go through. And while it's doing that, you can just wait. So at the end of the day, you just get to watch that go. Now, when you get the correct username and password, it's just going to give you what they call the status code is going to change. It's going to change to 302 on a particular combination that works. So what this is doing is just trying to, trying different, login credentials. And that's why they always say that one of the security measures you have to put in place when you have your web application is, the numbers of trials. And that's why I don't know if you've seen some website of nowadays when there are too many attempts, it just tells you, boom, you can't do it again, and that's all. And that's just because the website thinks you are trying to do a brute force. And in a sense, you can forget the password, but well, it is better you forget the password than the website owner now losing everything because of you. Do you understand? So it's not about that. I think it's still mixing them up. So let that just keep on going. Okay, it is saying finished. And we are supposed to have our password here, but it's still showing us all 200. Many recent, we're supposed to have our password in one of these things here. But let's see what we have there. Oh, not this page. Yeah, blah 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 blah. Okay, we see this guy here still running. It's still running. It's still going and still waiting. Why? Because the traffic is still on hold. So the password is actually supposed to be here, and it's still not showing. Yes, which it's actually supposed to show, but it has shown that the intruder has finished all the whatever it has finished, but it's supposed to go. We're supposed to have like a change of status code, and that's because we have the password here already, right? This is designed for practical sake. Okay, I think we have this error received here. So the length is supposed to change. We're supposed to have a length of like 155 and a status code of 302. When you have a correct credential, you're supposed to have that working there. And this is actually an error. Why this is not coming up? This is probably an error, which I probably will have to look into, but yeah, that's fine. So anyways, we're just getting to demonstrate what can actually happen when an attacker gets to be on your network and how easy it can be for him to intercept your traffic. But yeah, the password for this is actually this last one, which this particular error code is supposed to change. I mean, the status code is supposed to change. It's supposed to actually confirm that yeah, this particular one was tried and it gave us access. But other about that, so you can still say that it still stands, but let's just assume that your first attempt the password is correct. And in most cases, you will actually not get to forget it. So let's just go back and cut it from, or let's turn the interception off. I'm trying to put them side by side so that you can see what actually happens the moment the attacker has the login details and just lets you go, and boom, you're good to go. Amazingly, if you're using a platform whereby you have OTP, hold on, no, this guy's dancing around. If you are making use of a platform whereby you have OTP, what the attacker is just going to do is just going to seize the traffic, right? And it's going to let you be able to. It's going to hold it. Then it's going to try to log in on your behalf. Then it's going to release it. And the moment it releases it, what gets to happen? You get to have access back to it, and you will not know that something else has gone wrong. So, okay, what I'm going to do, I just want to I want to turn off the interception but I'm trying to minimize the screen so that you can see what happens the moment the interception is turned off. So as you can see, it's still going, it's still loading, still opening. Looks like it's going to come back in place. And that's it about that. So this is actually on. So let me just turn it off and see what happens next. Interception off. You can see that I logged in. It shows us an incorrect password, and that's just how that works. And amazingly, let's assume that the attacker let's assume that the password you input was correct, but the attacker, like I said, assuming there's an OTP system in place, what the attacker is just going to do as well is to log in on your behalf, then release you. So once he releases you, right? But the moment he logs in on your behalf, before he requests for an OTP, he would have released you. Do you understand? So the moment he turns off is intercepting whatever it is, he allows you to log in. Then the next thing the attacker will do is to request an OTP. And while you now request for an OTP, he will intercept your demand to the server. So what you're going to be seeing next is you'll be seeing OTP on your phone. So you just likely think that, oh, it has gone through. It's probably just the network that is waiting, that is slow. But OTP has already entered. Do you get? So the next thing the attacker is going to do is turn off the interception, allow you input the OTP, then he locks it back. So during the time he locks it, he already gets the original OTP and he logs in. So while you are waiting, you will not find out OTP enter your phone. You'll be like, all this network, all these network guys, they are sending OTP twice. And in the real sense, no system will actually send the OTP twice. When OTP comes in twice, it's just that something or whatever it is actually up. So in that way, the attacker gets your OTP, he logs in as you, and he is able to do anything that he wants to do. So that's just a demonstration of how website attack actually, web application attack actually gets to work very easy, and it's done without your knowledge. Thank you. So any question on that? Any question on that, please? I'm supposed to even check the chat to see what people have. Any question on that? If you can hear me, I cannot hear you. Oh, you said your network did not allow you to understand the practical. I am so sorry. I did not see that. It's not mandatory you make use of Parrot. Like I said, you can use anything. Anything gets to work. Parrot does not, determine what you get to use. You can use anything. Parrot doesn't matter. Oh, how can one counter the attack? Well, there are actually tools in place. I think we said it's part of the class just to ensure that you can avoid all this. By the end of the day, I just ensure that you're operating through an encrypted traffic. Ensure your traffic is encrypted. And the most important, right, is just whereby the designer of the web application, let them ensure that they do a proper web application design, and to ensure that they do not put you in trouble by using their web application. It's not your fault, obviously, if there's a vulnerability on their web application. It's just a vulnerability that you are inheriting being a user, and that's about that. But amazingly, would you even know something has ever happened like that? You wouldn't actually know. So in some cases, even getting to avoid this can be a whole lot. So yes, please, you can go ahead and ask any other question.
Please, I have a question, sir.
Okay, please, one at a time. As you know, we have 2 minutes more.
Hello? Good evening.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yes, good evening.
the OWASP, what's it used for?
And It's actually a vulnerability scanner for web applications.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so can I
Hello.
go?
Yes, you can, please. I can hear
Okay,
you.
so my question is, when you intercepted the login details using Bob Suite, you were able to see the password and the username because the site is not secured. So
Yes.
in a case where the site is using encryption, you will not be able to send the plain text when you intercept it. So at that point, what do you do?
I am right. When you see it, most of them they're always encrypted. And you would the next thing you are to do is to check what kind of encryption is actually at place to ensure that you don't see it. Now, if it's a soft encryption that you can decrypt, then you can go ahead and decrypt it. And now, and that is why we also went ahead to try, the brute force method, and we are trying that just in case if you do not the password you are sending is encrypted and you're unable to understand it, then you can go ahead and do a brute force attack on the target on the web application itself. So at the end of the day, let's just remember that whatever it is that you're exploiting is actually a vulnerability. So at the moment a vulnerability actually exists, it becomes something that you can exploit. So if it's a vulnerability that the encryption method that you have is actually light, you can go ahead and do that. And if it is not, then obviously it's not a must you win everything now. And yes, there are so many cases you can go through that you don't win them, yes. But at the end of the day, right, it's just that you always find somebody that have such vulnerabilities ongoing. So I think somebody actually asked for a similar tool like Bob Suit. Yes, they are similar to. You can use Zap. You can use Cardio. Yeah, Cardio actually works as well, like Bob Suit, and that works as well. So any other question, please?
Okay, sorry. Good evening. Please, can we use?
Yes, I have another question.
Peter, go first, please. After Peter, Chukwuka, you can go on. After Peter, please.
Okay, can we use DVWA for that same attack and defense?
Can we use what, please?
DVWA. As an instant.
Okay, like can you make use of it the same way we are making use of this guy, Abby? And
Yes,
well,
exactly.
well, at the end of the day, I think so. But at the end of the day, DVW is just just like it's a vulnerable web application. Do you understand? It's actually a web application that's actually vulnerable, and it's used for educational purpose only. So it's not really like a tool that you're using to attack. Do you know that? So it's just like for practice. You want to go ahead and practice, then you can go ahead and practice with the DVWA. So that's all about that. Do you understand?
Okay. I've once used it for that kind of defense. So that's why I'm asking if you can actually use it. So
Yes, sure. Yes, you can use it.
thank you.
Chukwuka, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. When you talk about wireless attacks, I encountered an issue at a certain time. You see, you need a particular wireless device to be able
Wi-Fi
to enter
adapter.
wireless attack. Yes. Now the one I had was a TP-Link, one tiny one like that is in form of USB, but that one didn't work.
And go and buy on Amazon now. What do you want me to say? If you want what I will go and buy it on Amazon now. I actually understand, yeah. They are just this is all the idea. There's always new security measures put in place. And when they are putting new security measures in place, it's just to counter a vulnerability or counter a tool that used to work. And that's why if that tool does not work, then it means the security measures put in place, it's withstanding that tool. Then go and buy a better tool and you're good to go.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other question? Any other question? We are 3 minutes out, like we were 3 minutes out yesterday. So I'm done for today. Mr. Samuel, please, I'm handing over.
There is no 100% security anywhere in the world. The more the ease of life, the more the security. One of the beauty about cybersecurity is also job security.